What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was banished and came back with the power of all Bijuu? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. The body thumped onto the ground before him. Widened eyes gazed in horror as the body of his instructor Iruka Amino lay before him. Iruka coughed violently. Mizuki wore a manic grin as he stepped on Iruka's back. Naruto hid behind a tree, too terrified to move. Naruto's tears slowly fell down his face. Move and help him, damn it. Move, he yelled inside his mind. His body stayed still. Earlier that night Naruto had stolen the forbidden scroll of sealing. Naruto had failed the graduation exam earlier that day when he failed to produce a bunshin. After class Mizuki had approached him offering his condolences. Mizuki had fooled Naruto into believing that if he stole the forbidden scroll of sealing that he could graduate with the rest of his class. Iruka screamed as his traitorous friend applied pressure to his wound. What's wrong Iruka? You were so confident before I stabbed you in the back. Mizuki sneered. Iruka glared at his former friend weakly. You won't get away Mizuki the HOK. Ack. Mizuki kicked Iruka in the ribs. Iruka started hacking blood up as Mizuki grinned. Iruka, I'm disappointed. Iruka gritted his teeth and bore the pain. Mizuki chuckled. You still stay loyal to the demon. He waved around them. Iruka gritted his teeth. He's more than that to me. He's a person just like you or me. Naruto hid wide-eyed behind the tree. What are they talking about? Mizuki laughed. This is rich. The person who should hate Naruto most actually cares about him. I'm sorry to hear that the Kyuubi has fooled you. Naruto's eyes widened to dinner plates. I'm the Kyuubi? Have they been lying to me all along? Betrayal pierced his heart. He was in such shock that he did not notice what happened next. Iruka tried to respond. He's no. Whatever might have been said was lost when Mizuki lost his patience and stabbed his kunai into the back of Iruka's skull. A sick grin adorned his face. The world fell away around Naruto. He was the Kyuubi. He was a monster who killed thousands of people. He slumped against the tree and went slack. He could never return to Konoha. He had betrayed everything he stood for and helped a traitor steal the forbidden scroll. His heart thrummed in his ears and he distantly heard pained cursing. Mizuki searched frantically for the Kyuubi brat. Where are you? Show yourself, you little demon spawn. From the trees above, men in masks watched the maddened traitors search for Naruto. One of the figures with a crow mask made hand signals. His two accomplices nodded and dropped down. Mizuki only had the warning of a rustling branch before he was knocked out. The two Anbu restrained the unconscious Chunin roughly. Crow looked towards Boar. Where's the other traitor? He asked in a strained tone. Boar looked nervous. Squads 5 and 6 formed a perimeter around this area under the assumption that Uzumaki fled over an hour ago. I did not see him intervene to save his teacher, so I assumed he fled hours ago, and I ordered all squads to form patrols. We could not find any traces of Naruto Uzumaki's whereabouts in the surrounding area. It is assumed he was a sleeper agent and possessed a high-level evasion jutsu. A shocked Naruto listened only feet away from the Anbu. Crow looked irate. I don't care how many men we need in the field. Naruto Uzumaki has stolen the most forbidden document in the village. Naruto stayed perfectly still. He felt conflicted. I can't return to Konoha. I'm the monster that took everyone's parents away. I killed people with my claws. He looked at his hands and imagined bloody claws in their place. His mind flashed to all the whispers and glares he received every day of his life. Suddenly he knew why they hated him. He had killed them. He had torn them to pieces and taken their loved ones away. Maybe I'm a monster. Yes, maybe I should start acting like one. No one cared about him. The least he could do was return the glares and hate with his own hatred. He clenched his hands until they bled. Once the Anbu left with Mizuki. After a few moments he silently got up. He was careful to not get dirt on the forbidden scroll of sealing he had strapped to his back. He looked at the bloodstains where his teacher had died. He should have felt sad, but he felt only apathy. The world had lost its color and he felt like he was numb. He could only guess this was horror at its finest. He gazed at his sensei's blood. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I promised to never be a coward again. He closed his eyes and turned around. Slowly he started walking in a random direction, away from Konoha. Hokage Tower. Next day. Hiruzen Sarutobi looked at his subordinate with no small amount of anger. Tell me again how you failed to find a mere academy student. The low tone and barely restrained fury in the Hokage's voice made Frog wish someone else had been given the not-so-glorious duty of giving the Hokage the bad news. Sir, we arrived at the location of the academy teacher Mizuki and then spread out in a formation to hopefully capture Uzumaki. We assumed he would not have gotten far. Hiruzen turned sharply, eyes livid. You assume that a mere academy student that not only stole the forbidden scroll of sealing but also avoided your detection thus far could not have gotten far? The tone in the Hokage's voice promised deadly intent should Frog not answer correctly. Frog attempted to swallow the lump in his throat. I felt it unnecessary to take extra precautions Hokage-s. Sama, the tremor in his voice gave away his fear. Hiruzen stared at the man stoically. The Anbu member thought he might get off the hook. He was proven wrong. The Hokage opened his mouth and to Frog's shock a blade extended out of the Hokage's throat at blazing speed. With a sick squelch the blade embedded itself in Frog's head. The blade retracted back into Hiruzen's mouth leaving Frog's body to collapse to the ground in a puddle of blood. Hiruzen smirked cruelly. He slowly reached to his face and grasped the skin. With a tug his skin peeled, revealing a more pale skin tone. Snake-like eyes shone from Hiruzen's face as he looked down at his dead subordinate. What a failure. Still better to use what materials I can, lamented the now revealed Orochimaru. He took the now dead Anbu and sealed him within a scroll. He reminded himself to get a genin team to clean the blood from his office. A ring on his finger glowed and Orochimaru sighed. He channeled chakra to it and the world faded away. His office washed away and a world of pure white greeted him. Soon the world gained color and when Orochimaru opened his eyes he was in a cave. The cave was dim and he could make out 9 other figures, each situated on a gigantic finger. His eyes were drawn to the huge stone statue that filled the room. Welcome, my fellow members, toned out the leader. Orochimaru groaned. He could already imagine how angry the leader would be. All 9 astral projections gave firm nods at their leader. Orochimaru nodded reluctantly. Pain looked at his subordinates with calculating eyes. I'm sure you're wondering why I have called this meeting? Everyone nodded. Pain noticed Orochimaru looking nervous but decided to file that away for later. I have called you all here for the next stage of our plans for world peace. Hushed whispers broke out between the members. Pain motioned for silence which everyone complied. One of the members raised their hand slightly. Pain nodded in their direction. The man was one of the newer members to Orochimaru's surprise. The new member had an orange spiral mask and held a childish demeanor. Leader Sama, would this have anything to do with the disappearance of the 7 and one-tailed Jinchuriki? You are correct, Toby. 2 of the Jinchuriki have gone missing and it is assumed that the one-tails was captured while the 7 tails willingly fled. Orochimaru glanced at his fellow members to see their reactions. 2 Jinchuriki on the loose was very dangerous. If the wrong party got hold of them it could put a wrench into the Akatsuki's plans. None of the members gave anything away to their inner thoughts. Now this brings us to the next stage of our plans. Pain toned on. Pain quickly went through a series of hand seals. The world jarred and everyone disappeared. The white world greeted Orochimaru before a new landscape reappeared. Shouts of surprise and shock greeted Pain as the astral projections appeared. What greeted everyone was a surprise. Before the Akatsuki's eyes was a graveyard. A vast landscape filled with coffins as far the eye could see. Tens of thousands of coffins as far as the eye could see littered the bloody landscape. Green blood seeped out of the coffins from fresh corpses. Some of the Akatsuki wondered what kind of person had green blood. The bloody landscape stretched forever onward. Orochimaru looked up and was shocked to see a hazy amber-colored sky. He was broken out of his shock when Pain spoke. I'm sure you all are surprised by this development. This is a pocket dimension that was created by a discreet friend of mine. Pain's eyes gravitated towards Toby when he said that. Hidan started yelling about his god before Kakuzu shut him up. Sasori looked immensely intrigued at the prospects of the pocket dimension. Deidara looked confused. Kisame looked bored while Konan looked slightly disturbed. Orochimaru however was shocked as he recognized just what was happening. Pain channeled his immense chakra and what happened next frightened and awed everyone. The world rumbled and the coffins all slid open. Pain smirked at Orochimaru's stunned expression. I would like to thank Orochimaru for donating his scientific knowledge to our organization. Now we begin our first step to world peace." Orochimaru just dumbly nodded his head. He wondered how many sacrifices Pain used for this. 1,000? 100,000? A million? However it happened, Orochimaru knew one thing. They were unstoppable. After Pain adjourned the meeting, Orochimaru slumped in his chair and glared at the wall. He chose a good time to tell Pain of the screw-up with the 9 tails. Pain was in such a good mood that he let him off with a warning. In a few months they would invade all the elemental countries and take over the world. They would storm over every village before they even had time to understand what was happening. Pain believed his undying army was the solution to eternal peace. Pain believed that if he gathered all the Bijuu he could gain immortality. With the Bijuu assuring him immortality, he could rule over the earth forever as its god. Orochimaru of course would attempt to betray Pain. No one but him could have immortality after all. The only problem was Orochimaru's weapon, Naruto Uzumaki, had gone rogue and stolen one of his village's most prized possessions. The snake Sannin was not only enraged, but he swore to himself he would make the blonde boy suffer in his final moments. Orochimaru had been recording some of his experimental and most dangerous works in that scroll. "Naruto Uzumaki, you took my research from me. I won't stop hunting you until I get it back." Orochimaru took out a piece of paper and started working on some bounty details. Information for Bounty Office. Name: Naruto Uzumaki. Age: 13. Rank: A rank. Taijutsu: unknown. Genjutsu: none. Ninjutsu: assumed high A rank. Chakra reserves: enormous. Information: was an academy student of Kanogakure no Sato, until recently linked in the disappearance of the Forbidden Scroll of Seals. The target is assumed high A ranked and is wanted alive for questioning. Bounty: 30 million ryo. Orochimaru appraised the note with a critical eye. With a bounty that topped some S-rank criminals, he felt certain that some would question just what was in the contents of the Forbidden Scroll. He hoped that by making the bounty so large that the suspicions would be cast on the scroll, rather than Naruto himself. He needed Naruto, as without a Bijuu the village would be at a severe disadvantage against Kumo and Iwa. He was working on something that would nullify the need for a Bijuu, but it was slow going at best. He needed the scroll as it contained all his notes. Yes, by tomorrow news would spread like wildfire of a rogue Uzumaki that had turned traitor and stolen one of Konohagakure's most important secrets. Weeks later, somewhere in Frost Country. Kaden. Grand Fireball Jutsu. An enormous fireball spewed forward and annihilated a grove of trees. Naruto huffed as he finally mastered the fire jutsu. He had been practicing the jutsu in the Forbidden Scroll with relentless determination. The cold frost buffed against him, but he remained snug and warm with the new clothes he had bought. He wore a dark red shirt and pants with a long white coat to protect against the cold. He had changed somewhat since he fled to Konoha. After stopping at a village somewhere in the Land of Fire, he decided that he needed new clothes. Luckily, his skills in stealth allowed him to steal from some of unsuspecting nobles that frequented the area. Flashback. Naruto yawned. He hadn't slept much since his defection and it was taking a toll. He was always looking over his shoulder, expecting the flash of a blade. He needed a new look. Something that no one would expect from him. Wonder where I should start, he thought. He walked through the village and found his answer. A shinobi store with a modest wooden sign reading, Tanaki Shop, greeted him. Well, this should be interesting. He walked inside the store. The bell ringed and an old man in his late 60s appeared behind the counter. What can I do for you, son? I'm looking for some new clothes that blend in well with the environment, something that could help protect against projectiles, and some tools. The old man looked pensive. I think I might have what you're looking for. Hold on, I'll be back. The old man went into the back room and left Naruto to look at some of the man's wares. Sharp weapons hung from the wooden walls. Everything from katanas to kamas in varying degrees of shape hung on the wall. He must sell used weapons. They aren't in too bad of shape. I could get better weapons from a major village. The old man came back into view and laid a box on the counter. Naruto walked over and was surprised by the contents. The gear was very old and looked like it was from the First Shinobi World War. Naruto looked at the old man funny. You're joking, right? The old man laughed at Naruto deadpan tone. Listen, sonny. I used to be a shinobi when I was your age, and these are more than just old relics. Sure, and how I am supposed to move with that? Naruto said sarcastically. The heavy armor-plated suit from the first shinobi war was not suited for moving quickly in his opinion. The old man chuckled. Listen up, son. I am about to give you a history lesson. Naruto reluctantly sat and listened to the old man. Naruto yawned, not wanting to be there. The old man whacked Naruto upside the head. Hey, what was that for? Naruto exclaimed loudly. He held the large bump on his head. The old man looked indignant. That's what you get for disrespecting your elders. Now shut up and listen. Naruto finally closed his mouth and listened to the angry old geezer. The old man huffed. Now I am about to tell you a little history lesson. During the clan wars and first two shinobi world wars, all the shinobi wore metal armor plating. Can you tell me why that is? They never thought about wearing lighter clothing? He retorted. The old man gave a small laugh. Trust me, while having lighter armor is nice and helps move quicker, it was for an entirely different reason. The metal that makes up this armor here is chakra conductive metal. Naruto looked confused. Okay, but how is that important? The old man smiled. That, my boy, is the question. The answer is seals. Seeing Naruto did not understand, he continued. Before the Second Shinobi War, Iron Country had a monopoly on chakra conductive metal, and they still do. During this time they had a trade agreement with the Uzumaki clan to export their metal solely to them. The reason being is that chakra conductive metal is the only form of armor that you can transcribe certain enhancement seals on. Naruto's eyes widened. He had a clan? Is the last name a coincidence, or do I have a family? He decided to just sit and listen to the story. With chakra conductive metal you could write seals to not only enhance the durability of the armor, but you could also create seals that added artificial chakra pools to the user. It worked like storing chakra in the armor and then extracting it when the user got low on chakra. You could infinity stack these seals on each other, which is why only the most powerful and rich clans had them. Naruto found a flaw in the old man's story. Alright, but if this armor was so good, why doesn't everyone use it? The old man's smile disappeared and he looked somber. That is because the Uzumaki clan was destroyed in the Second Shinobi War. Every nation excluding Fire Country felt threatened by the capabilities of the Uzumaki. Most felt that if a time of peace would come about, the Uzumaki would use that time to stack such an amount of seals to their armor that they would become invincible. After their fall, most of the special armor was lost in the Third Shinobi War when all the villages utilized their Jinchuriki. After that, the samurai of Iron Country retracted all trade agreements and have isolated themselves. Naruto was happy that he might have a family, but that was gone when he heard they had perished long ago. He looked at the old man. So if this armor you have is so rare, why are you giving it to me? The old man grinned. I was once friends with an Uzumaki and you remind me of him a bit. You don't have their signature red hair, but something about you just makes me feel that I'm making the right choice. Naruto admittedly felt touched. He had never gotten a gift before. He leaned forward and opened the box. Inside was jade green armor. Similar to the pictures of the second Hokage, he found the only differences being that the size a bit small. How is supposed to fit me? The old man placed a hand on the armor and channeled chakra to a seal. The armor glowed blue and soon shrunk to a size that could match Naruto. Wow, that's pretty neat. Naruto whispered. The old shopkeeper took out the armor along with a red Uzumaki clan shirt and pants. The shopkeeper traced his finger along a line on the armor and tapped it. A small booklet poofed into existence and the shopkeeper read it. Okay youngster, it says in my friend's manual that it is keyed to work for any Uzumaki and that it has a few special functions that he installed. Naruto grew happy at hearing that there would be special functions. Cool, what are they? It currently says that only a few seals are installed. Currently there are 4 seals inscribed as my friend died before he could apply anymore. The first is a seal that allows the armor to appear on the user and disappear when chakra is channeled to a matching seal on the forearm. Very useful if you wish to relax and quickly don the armor in case of an ambush. Naruto was happy as he would not need to constantly wear the armor. The next function is a 7-layered seal that vastly improves the user's speed. It was the most heavily worked on seal and spends the user's chakra to somehow improve your speed. Depending on how much chakra you have, you could potentially achieve Jonin to low cage level speed. I am sorry as I have no clue how this one works. The old man looked over the next part. The third seal is a durability seal that hardens the armor to 3 times its normal strength. It does not enhance the body's durability, so be careful. At the most it could withstand a few A-ranked Doden jutsu before denting. Finally the shopkeeper got to the last part. This is the last function and it has 2 parts. The first part makes the armor weigh very little. The second part can reduce the user's weight. Say you were falling from a great height, you could use this to lessen the impact. After the shopkeeper was finished talking, Naruto was floored. How much for it? He shakily asked. He honestly felt he could not afford something like this. The shopkeeper let out a hearty laugh. My boy, you remind me much of my friend. I'll let you have this for free. Not to mention only an Uzumaki can wear it. Not much point in keeping it. The additional things you asked for will need to be paid for, however. Naruto took out the money and paid for the survival rations, blood pills, and some kunai. The shopkeeper took out an ink brush. Now I know a little bit of fuinjutsu, so I can apply the seal that should let you summon that armor to you. Sure, go ahead. The old shopkeeper applied the seal carefully, and after all was said and done, Naruto walked away with a new suit of armor and much needed supplies. After gaining a few miles of distance from the small village, he returned to his small camp. He immediately channeled chakra to his forearm and in a poof his new armor appeared on him. Feeling weighted done, he activated one of the seals that reduced weight. Like a weight dropping, the armor weighed as much as leather. Wow, I can't believe how light this is. He started doing kicks and punches. Well, this is awesome. Current time. The burning trees toppled over as the fire ate them. Naruto had proudly mastered over 40 jutsu in the last few weeks. He had first learned the Kage Bunshin and promptly abused it to learn as many jutsu as possible. With his new armor he could use its speed enhancement to compete with Jonin level speed. His newfound speed allowed him to dodge and maneuver so he could keep spamming jutsu. He had enough chakra to power his speed enhancement forever. Genjutsu was currently out of his grasp and taijutsu was slow going. The second jutsu he had learned was the Rasengan, and that had taken hundreds of Kage Bunshin to learn. He walked over his tent and entered. The forbidden scroll lay open. He looked over some of the less expected portions. When he had stolen the scroll he of course expected some forbidden techniques, but he never imagined what lay before him. The technique he was looking at was labeled, Chakra Drain Technique. It was listed as experimental and surprisingly the third Hokage had submitted it. Didn't know the old man was a scientist. He looked over the diagrams of the technique. It had varying degrees of success. Let's see what it says. He looked at the description of its purpose. Third Hokage's notes. The aim of this technique is the eventual death of all 9 Bijuu. Chakra drain is the pinnacle of chakra absorption. Instead of absorbing chakra to replenish one's own supply as many have done, I have achieved what others only dreamed of. Using my own chakra I successfully managed to fully extract an Uchiha's chakra. Itachi Uchiha was the Uchiha clan's primary candidate for the clan head position, but he was a threat. I tested my jutsu on him under the assumption that the new chakra would make a Sharingan implant more receptive. Naruto looked up shocked out of his mind. What the fuck? He looked back down and continued reading. Third Hokage's notes. Imagine my surprise when the chakra I took from Itachi Uchiha gave me a Sharingan. I was surprised to my eternal consternation. Further testing was warranted and I had a prime target. The Uchiha were always a rowdy bunch. I orchestrated a rebellion within their ranks and enjoyed reaping their precious chakra. Immediately unexpected changes happened, which was to be expected with taking such an enormous amount of yin chakra. The I now had started to evolve into a new form. The sclera changed to a yellow. The normal Sharingan design changed to an octagon with a star inside. The new eyes had abilities which I am hesitant in writing down. Naruto was very confused. The third Hokage killed off the Uchiha? What the fuck is going on? He continued reading with a sick feeling. He looked towards a note made within the last 2 years. Third Hokage's notes. The latest tweaks to the technique has proven advantageous but frustrating all the same. I attempted to discreetly absorb the Uzumaki brat's chakra when he was last hospitalized. The seal on the child's stomach prevented any form of tampering from outside to my frustration. Further testing is needed before the death of the Kyuubi is achieved. Okay, so the Hokage is some psycho-scientist and he's trying to kill me. This is so wrong. Finally done reading, he looked at the requirements. Let's see. Only requirement: large chakra capacity. The target is required to either be unconscious or restricted from movement while jutsu is performed. Any physical movement will disturb the process. Quote, he got up and walked towards a nearby tree. Let's try this out. He put his hand against it. Moving his chakra very slowly, he attempted to wrap his chakra around the tree. Slowly blue-colored chakra extended from his hand and wrapped around the tree's form. He felt every inner function of the tree. He felt its chakra. It was green and felt pure. He tried to tighten his hold over the tree's chakra and tugged. Like water, his chakra came back to him slowly, pulling the green chakra with it. When the green chakra entered his chakra coils was when things went wrong. Pain flared all over his body. Argghh, he started screaming. Red chakra boiled around him. The red chakra was caught in the technique. When Naruto's chakra was retracting, the minute amounts of Kyuubi chakra were pulled. This in turn caused more to be pulled in a chain reaction. The red chakra reacted violently to the pull and was sucked in. Ah, make it stop! Naruto screamed. An unearthly scream yelled alongside him. The two screams melded into one as red chakra exploded all over him. The surrounding snow melted and the earth beneath him blackened. Pain filled him and he could not feel anything else. Naruto was cocooned in the red energy as it warped and changed him. Luckily for him, he was not near a shinobi village or the chakra would have sent shinobi racing to him. Painful shouts changed into snarling. After an eternity, the pain stopped and Naruto opened his eyes. The cold, snowy landscape greeted him. He groaned. He attempted to lift himself up and fell over on his side. What the? He felt different. He looked down at himself and went white as a sheet. Instead of seeing a clothed torso, he saw rust-red fur. He looked down and saw that not only were all his clothes gone, but he had the body of a fox. He started hyperventilating. This can't be happening. He brought his hands up. Red-furred claws greeted him. The razor-sharp claw gleamed in the sun. He shakily managed to stand up. Naruto leaned heavily against a tree. When he looked down, 9 flowing tails greeted him. Impossible, he whispered. Naruto had become the Kyuubi. The puddle in front of him reflected a face not his own. Ruby-red orbs and a canine snout stared back at him. The water sprayed violently as Naruto swiped at his image in anger. He had steadily progressed in adapting to his new form. He had at first fallen over constantly until he learned how foxes walk. Naruto cursed as he fell over again. He was not used to walking around with hind legs. He was desperately trying to figure this out. Damn it, I can't believe this is happening. I finally escaped from Konoha and I become the demon that everyone believed I was. His voice had even changed. Where before a childish voice that bespoke his innocence, now resided a guttural deep voice. I think I might have it this time. Naruto slowly used his human-like claws to lift his upper torso and tried to put weight on his hind legs. He growled in frustration. He slowly lifted himself and tried to walk around on all fours. He managed to walk for 20 minutes and finally got some experience in his new body. Finally, he exclaimed. Now that he finally could walk, albeit not like a human, he wondered how this happened. Could it possibly be because of the chakra drain technique? I suppose it's possible I accidentally pulled in the Kyuubi's chakra. The Kyuubi was inside of me, so I can only guess. Naruto made his way back to his tent. He strode past the small river he had been using to look at his reflection. He was around the size of a Great Dane. He had tried experimenting with his new chakra and found he could change size at will. He could, however, get no smaller than he was currently. Every time he tried, he felt every fiber in his being scream out in pain. He opened the flaps to his tent and entered. The forbidden scroll of sealing laid open as always. It had been 3 days since he learned the chakra drain technique and he had put a halt on training until he could cope with the sudden change. Naruto was coping well considering just what had happened to him. He was upset and still was, but he had come to terms with the fact he might as well be the fox itself after Mizuki blew the village's dirty little secret. He had simply become what he already thought he was. He opened the forbidden scroll and looked for something of interest. Let's see, here's one. Looks like another one by the 3rd Hokage. 3rd Hokage's notes. Kachiyose. Edo Tensai. Is a jutsu that allows the caster to bring back the dead for an infinite duration at the cost of a human life. The revived undead is subject to the control of the caster and will regenerate any wound. The caster can also take away the revived free will and assume control over them like a puppet. Well, my opinion of the old man just keeps going down. What's next? Naruto mumbled. Third Hokage's notes. I have achieved a breakthrough with Edo Tensei and successfully summoned the second Hokage in a revived state. When I began to perfect this jutsu, the revived would only be a fraction of their former strength. However, my position as Hokage has allowed me access to materials I would otherwise not be able to acquire. Within the first year I have perfected this jutsu. The caster can use their own chakra to enhance the revived to a state beyond their prime. If you use enough chakra, you could possibly reverse physical ailments before death. This, however, is theoretical. Naruto took a thinking pose. Okay, if I learn this, I basically become a monster with no respect for the dead. Well, I'm a monster anyway, and an invincible zombie army sounds cool. Naruto kept reading on, completely ignoring that little voice in the back of his head that told him he was just making excuses and that it was wrong to defile the dead. Third Hokage's notes. I have recently discovered possibly the most amazing discovery and a greater use for Edo Tensei than even the Uzumaki could have thought of. The secret is... Naruto's eyes widened to plates. Deep underground Konohagakure. Orochimaru crept about his underground laboratory. His plans drew near, and that fool Pain would know his place beneath his feet. His laboratory was a large dome-like structure that afforded a very wide area. Saying the complex was large was an understatement. It was over 500 feet below ground and reinforced to withstand an earthquake. The entrance was carefully hidden behind the Hokage monument, and any materials were carefully brought in under the guise of a secret trading route reserved for the Hokage only. Orochimaru approached the main chamber of the complex. Hundreds of root ninja and a few scientists walked through the hallways. The scientists wore an expression of cool certainty. Orochimaru made sure they were paid handsomely, and he had no shortage of money. He hired only the best and expected results. He of course did not wear his Hokage disguise in the complex. He made sure that he was perceived as on a secret assignment for the Hokage and that his defection was faked. He also made sure only the people within the complex and Danzo knew of the faux story. With his bases covered, he could plan unhindered. Orochimaru had killed both Hiruzen and Itachi with the same methods, poison. Orochimaru was a deceiver, and neither of the two S-ranked ninja expected poison in either their tobacco or Pocky. He extracted both of their chakra and imitated them perfectly. For Hiruzen he played Hokage, and for Itachi he played the distant older brother that one night massacred his clan. He could only imagine how Pain had seen through his deceptions and managed to convince him to join his little group. Pain had only needed to offer him immortality, and with the fact the man possessed the Rinnegan, Orochimaru caved in immediately. Orochimaru walked into the main chamber and took in the sight. Preparations were almost complete. In the main chamber resided 10 pink hexagonal crystals surrounding a sealing circle. Each of the crystals had a person suspended within them. The people suspended were Edo Tensei shinobi that would provide the power to the seal. Each of the shinobi were cage level and would be drained of their infinite chakra to power the chakra-hungry seal. The sealing circle was filled with complex diagrams, and a person was seen writing complex seals within it. Orochimaru, I haven't seen you in so long. Jiraiya exclaimed happily. Orochimaru sighed. Hello Jiraiya. That's no way to greet your best friend. Show me some love, will you? Jiraiya laughed. Just give me a status update, you buffoon. I haven't time for your jokes. Orochimaru snapped. He detested working with his perverted teammate, but it was necessary as he did not have the sealing knowledge to perfect this technique. Hee, maybe you need a little stress relief, Orochimaru. Why don't you try my latest book, Icha Icha Milf Tea? Orochimaru slapped Jiraiya upside the head. Jiraiya rubbed the lump on his head. What was that for? Orochimaru suppressed the urge to gut his teammate. Do I need to remind you Hiruzen has given me authority over this project, Jiraiya? I could easily convince him to ban those precious Icha Icha books from Konoha if you start slacking. A look of pure horror appeared on Jiraiya's face. Jiraiya shivered. Nope. I won't slack, oh mighty one. Jiraiya said jokingly. Orochimaru fumed inwardly. Jiraiya was clearly mocking him. Jiraiya gained a sudden disturbed expression. So, any big news lately? Sensei has been keeping me here for a while. I haven't even seen the daylight in a month. I'm pretty sure my spy network has been compromised by now, and he doesn't even seem concerned. Is Sensei okay? Orochimaru thought how to answer that. Jiraiya still believed Sarutobi was alive. He believes my research will bring us superiority over the other villages. This is the future. Jiraiya and Sensei would not have faked my defection if he did not believe in me. Jiraiya nodded. Orochimaru was secretly glad Jiraiya trusted Sarutobi so much. He probably believed Sensei was infallible and could not be beaten. Well, that was true in the traditional sense. Most people don't fight after smoking poison for an extended period of time. So what do you need this for anyway? From what I've seen, this is some sort of dimensional portal, but also acts as a suppression circle. Jiraiya asked. Orochimaru decided to answer honestly. We have received intelligence that in a few months that all the nations will be attacked simultaneously by an army of Edo Tensei Shinoi. This portal, if it works, will allow me to summon something that should take care of that little problem. Jiraiya drew in a sharp breath. Orochimaru could not fault him. Jiraiya looked at Orochimaru like he had lost his head. What in Kami's name could you summon that could fight an entire army of revived shinobi? You realize they all regenerate, right? No matter how powerful something is, they cannot single-handedly fight off an undying army with infinite chakra. Orochimaru chuckled. Jiraiya was about to yell at his teammate when Orochimaru walked over to a chair and sat down. My dear ignorant teammate, I perfected the Edo Tensei and I of all people would know its weaknesses. I have devised a way to deal with this problem and the man orchestrating it all. Trust me when I say I know exactly what to summon. The way Orochimaru said that did not make Jiraiya feel any easier. He got chills imagining what could possibly be strong enough to destroy an Edo Tensei army. Frost Country. Naruto sat the scroll down and thought heavily. The greatest asset of the Edo Tensei was its ability to provide the revived with infinite chakra. The revived Edo Tensei could be harnessed for their infinite chakra to power seals that otherwise could not be powered. With infinite chakra, any conceivable seal could be created and powered forever. The notes stopped sometime last month and no more notes were made on it. However, there was a reference to a dimensional summoning seal, but he could not find it yet. The Forbidden Scroll was vast in its knowledge and it would take time to find something specific. Naruto once again brought his razor-sharp hands up and stared at them. He had still not gotten quite used to the notion of claws or his new body. He took out a kunai from a knapsack and tried to cut into his hand. The kunai broke when he applied pressure and he did not even feel so much as a nudge. Whatever his body was made of was infinity stronger than steel. He curiously grated his claw against the kunai and watched as his claw cut through the steel like butter. Almost invisible wisps of yuki trailed out as his clawed forefinger cut the kunai in half. He examined the remains of the kunai curiously. The section that was cut was bright red and seemed to have been cut with a great amount of heat. He brought his hand slowly to the kunai and touched the burning hot metal. Nothing. He felt nothing and frowned. He pressed harder and the kunai shattered into pieces. Pieces flew everywhere and pelted him. The pieces shattered on impact and he blinked. The tent has thousands of small holes in it. What the? Deciding to test this further, he stalked outside the tent and approached a large stone. He got up on his haunches and punched the rock. The rock exploded from the strength of the blow. That's awesome. Naruto started punching rocks, and anything that looked like it might have hurt him to punch before his transformation. Rocks shattered, trees exploded into splinters and the ground cratered. This is awesome. I can't shatter rocks like nothing. Take that Konoha. I'll prove you all wrong about me. Naruto Uzumaki is the Kyuubi and he's no cowardly traitor. So excited, Naruto's tails started swinging around. He unconsciously channeled Yuki into his tails. When one of the tails slammed into the ground, something unexpected happened. What the? Oh shit. A massive earthquake started to rock the snowy forest. A nearby mountain collapsed. Naruto fell over as the trembling became tremendous. The nearby lake drained as a massive sinkhole formed in the bottom and drained the water. Landslides rocked the hills to the north. In a small village closer to the land of lightning, people ran screaming as buildings collapsed and fires started to burn out of control. A messenger ran from the village towards Kumogakure. The man was a ninja and felt the massive chakra burst, signaling a Bijuu attack. Naruto chuckled nervously. Well, that wasn't expected. The landscape around him was utterly destroyed and he now knew the tales of the Kyuubi causing earthquakes and tsunamis with a mere swing of its tails was no exaggeration. Saying the landscape was devastated was an understatement. He must have unconsciously channeled over 1,000 Jonin-level reserves and he barely felt the loss. Vaguely he remembered the story of how the first Hokage Hashirama Senju tamed all 9 Bijuu with ease. That man must have been a god or something, Naruto thought. After appreciating the destruction for a bit, he decided to head back to his camp. He had not moved for some time and figured maybe he should leave after that little display. Someone was sure to have felt that. He made it back to a tent and started sealing everything into a storage scroll. Thankfully the seal on his arm that held his armor was somehow still intact after his transformation and had enough space to seal the forbidden scroll into. The seal was under the fur and thankfully not visible. He had not needed to eat since his transformation, so he did not need food. He guessed eating was just something he could do for fun. Okay, now where to? Lightning Country was out of the question and surely he could not return to Fire Country. Not many people would take a red 9-tailed fox well if they saw him. Almost any person would assume he was a malicious demon. That left well, no one. Okay, let's see. People will run in fear of you and shinobi will attack on sight. Where would no one expect the Kyuubi to hide? Naruto thought. A proverbial light bulb lit over Naruto's head and he could not believe he had not thought of it before. A nondescript man in his 20s walked along a gravel road. His destination was only a few moments away. He wore a dark traveling cloak and concealed his face with a straw hat. The man approached the village of Karagakure with a confident gait. Finally he arrived at his destination. 2 gate guards noticed him and took out their weapons. "Drop it, bud. I recognize a henge when I see one," yelled one of the gate guards. The figure stopped and sighed. "I was so sure this would work." The man grumbled. "Drop the henge or prepare to be attacked." The guard demanded. Fine, fine, just chill," the man said. The henge dropped and smoke covered the man's form. Once the smoke cleared, the guards drew in a sharp breath. Naruto Uzumaki stood in front of the terrified guards. An A-ranked criminal on Kirigakure's doorstep. "You must have a death wish, Uzumaki." One of the guards motioned to an ANBU hanged into a tree. "Quickly alert Mai-sama that an A-ranked criminal is at our gate, hurry." The ANBU ran off and Naruto was alone with the 2 gate guards. The gate guards expected an attack at any moment and prepared for the fight of their lives. Naruto surprised them by just standing there. Luckily they didn't notice the second henge under the first. Purposely making a faulty henge over a near-perfect one was genius. Kage Bunshin is so good for training. The first henge will make them believe me incapable of performing genjutsu and make it all easier to fool them. He thought. The Mizukage arrived and he was surprised to see the Mizukage was smoking hot. The Mizukage was a woman in her late 20s with fiery red hair and an impressive bust. She had a slim figure and wore a long blue dress with the Mizukage robe over it. She was accompanied by a whole platoon of Kiri Anbu and the head of Kiri's Hunter Nin Division Ao. Mei looked at Naruto with a glare. What business does a missing ninja have with Kirigakure? Naruto smirked. "I'm not here for a fight. I'm here to make an offer that I would like to propose to you." Mei had a predatory look in her eyes when he said that. She sauntered over to him. He felt nervous but hid it behind a veneer of coolness. Mei gave Naruto a sultry look as she appraised him. "I think we could come to an agreement if you hand over that forbidden scroll I heard you stole," Mei said in a deceptively sweet voice. "Mai-sama, you cannot seriously be considering accepting this criminal, are you?" Ao said with disbelief. "Ao, shut up. I can clearly see this boy has need of a new home. After all, Konoha was clearly not taking care of dear Uzumaki here." Naruto felt like he was in front of a shark, and he was the prey. "This woman is sharp and is much more experienced than me. I got to watch my back." Naruto decided that indulging her would be in his best interest in this situation. Having them believe him a petulant child was far better than if they knew the truth. "Yes, you're right. Konoha did not appreciate me like I felt I should have been treated." Mei was surprised. She was honestly trying to get a rise out of the blonde. She did not expect the Uzumaki to have left for such petty reasons. Well, no matter, the last Uzumaki would make a fine addition to Kirigakure. After he breeds a new generation, I can simply dispose of him. Mai-sama, I protest this. This dog should be taken and executed like the traitor he is. In my day. Mei interrupted him. "Ao, shut up or I will kill you." Ao closed his mouth and a bead of sweat appeared on his brow. That brought a smile to Naruto's face. He had been hoping the fool would shut his mouth for quite some time. Mei extended a hand to Naruto. "Let us talk in my office, Uzumaki-san." Naruto took her hand and shook it. He bowed out of respect and followed Mei to her office. He walked through the giant gates of Kirigakure and looked at all the shops and people. Most of the people were extremely happy. He did hear that recently a civil war had ended, so he could see that they would be happy about it ending. Villagers and shinobi whispered as they saw the Mizukage and a blonde boy walk side by side, followed by an Anbu contingent. Naruto heard whispers asking who he was and if he was a foreign dignitary. Possibly a noble? Naruto chuckled. This drew Mei's attention and he mumbled, "Nothing." They finally arrived at the Mizukage Tower and Naruto marveled how similar it was to the Hokage Tower. "You know it's not that different from the Hokage Tower," Naruto said offhandedly. Mei nodded. "They are based off the same design. Something about a rising pillar of hope for their respective villages. Every village makes their own tweaks, but it's basically a large tower." Naruto almost gave a start when Mei laid a hand on his shoulder. His tails almost impaled her, but he suppressed the urge. It wouldn't be good for invisible tails to impale the Mizukage. "Something wrong, Naruto?" the Mizukage said in a sweet voice. "What, no, I'm fine, Mizukage." Mei stared at him satisfied. Naruto fumed inwardly. Mei had gotten the upper hand with that brief exchange. She knew she could make Naruto tick. That bitch. Wait. When did I start getting angry so easily? Mei made no effort to hide her smirk. She was a politician and knew exactly how to press people's buttons. She saw the way Naruto tensed when she grabbed his shoulder. He was like a feral animal ready to attack. She actually was ready to spit out a glob of lava if he made a move. This boy is so easy to read. He's just another brute driven by his hormones. Naruto meanwhile was thinking how to get the upper hand in their invisible battle. He needed to take some of her confidence away or she would walk all over him. He had just the plan. The two stepped into the Mizukage office. Mei took her seat behind her desk while Naruto grabbed a chair and sat down. Mei motioned for the Anbu to leave the room and put up a barrier. Naruto tensed. "Now while I'm interested in an Uzumaki joining Kirigakure, I would like that forbidden scroll foremost." Mei purred. Naruto was thinking quickly. He had it. Naruto chuckled. "If you want the forbidden scroll, I want citizen status and a clan compound. As the last Uzumaki I should have preferential treatment, you know? If I didn't know better I would think you were trying to cheat me." Mei's face slightly reddened, but she kept herself in control. This brat was getting on her nerves. "Yes, I'm sure someone of your pedigree would desire an appropriate living space. I only have a few requirements." Quote. The way she phrased the last part made Naruto suspicious. She was planning something. Mei acted her part and played the interested and seductive kunoichi. This boy was going to be putty in her hands. Mei put a pouty face. "Well, you see, we don't have many clans left in the village and we are running short on bloodlines. We need to repopulate, and I'm sure you've heard about the Uzumaki endurance bloodline. All Uzumaki have much more chakra and stamina than the normal ninja." Naruto knew where this was going. So she's got me here, but can I use this to my advantage? I don't think Bijuu can get a woman pregnant, can they? Damn, I wish I was more in my element. Politics is not my strength. Just play it cool and agree. It can't be that bad, right? Those lessons in politics from the old man are really coming in handy, though he stopped 2 years ago for some reason. Mei smirked inwardly. She had him. With Naruto she could gain a better quality of ninja and hopefully some of the Uzumaki's renowned Fuinjutsu knowledge if he had any. Her life was dedicated to Kirigakure and she would stoop to any level to be at the top. Yes, I can see you've realized what I'm asking. I would require you to bed many women to recreate the Uzumaki clan. You can rest assured you will not need to see them more than once. I have no interest in them marrying you unless the feeling is mutual. Mei intoned. Naruto would usually decline such an offer, but strangely, as with many other things, he was looking forward to it. Mei smirked at him and smiled in a seductive manner. For some reason he wanted to pounce the woman in front of him and take her by force. He felt himself harden and groaned. He used all his willpower to force the feeling down. If he lost control over his henge, he was royally fucked. Mei noticed Naruto become visibly uncomfortable. She had one. Hook, line and sinker. Teenagers are easy. She had an inner laugh, not realizing how much danger she was in. Naruto meanwhile was having trouble controlling himself. Like an inner animal being unleashed, his instincts were yelling at him to take the lusty woman in front of him and make her scream his name. Dangerously close to giving in and forcing himself on the Mizukage, he tried to focus on his mind. His mind was telling him that if he fucked this up it was over and that he needed to leave now. The mind won. Fuck it. Better hurry this up before I lose it, he thought. Mei mistook Naruto's pained look for some moral dilemma. In truth, he was trying hard to keep control. Thank you, Mei-sama, for such a considerate offer. I'm quite interested in the prospect. I will gladly repopulate the Uzumaki clan for you. Of course I expect all the power and privilege that comes with a clan head position. I expect a seat on the Kiri Council, and for the Forbidden Scroll I want to be your direct advisor. Mei almost fell out of her chair, out of the question. She slammed her fist on her desk. Do you take me for a fool, Uzumaki? Naruto suppressed a growl. His reason was warring with his instincts. He had a plan, damn it, he didn't need this right now. He finally suppressed his physical urges after a moment. It was time to snip this in the bud. Mei-sama, I assure you that I am quite capable. I am a fairly capable ninja and I know a bit about politics. It was true he had been forced to study politics by the old man, though he did not study much. He could simply abuse shadow clones and learn the entire Kiri library if he wanted in truth. Mei calmed down slightly. She was not used to dealing with such an audacious person. In truth, had it been anyone else or a person without a bloodline, she would have simply killed them for making such outrageous demands. The Kage were dictators of their respective villages, and if they were seen as weak, then it opened the ground for aggression. She slipped up and needed to get the high ground again. Naruto's attitude was seriously pissing her off. This was a missing nin at the age of 13 and he thought he could make demands of her. Ridiculous. Still, she needed his bloodline and the Forbidden Scroll, so she could concede some of her dignity. She would indulge his childish fantasy of being her advisor. Nothing of harm could come of it. Mei let out a deep breath. For the Forbidden Scroll of Sealing and a revived Uzumaki clan, she would give him what he wanted. Alright, I will give what you ask. You must first hand over the scroll and I expect you to bed the first woman within the week. Naruto gave an inward cheer of victory. He had won a political battle with a Kage. Thank you, Mei-sama, I truly appreciate your generosity. Here is the Forbidden Scroll. Naruto unsealed the Forbidden Scroll from the seal on his right arm. Mei eyed it hungrily. What Mei did not know was Naruto removed several of the Hokage's techniques such as the Edo Tensai, Chakra Drain, and anything else he deemed too dangerous. He had of course learned them all on the way to the village by abusing shadow clones. Since he was now basically immortal, he did not need to worry about his brain liquefying from forming too many shadow clones. Naruto knew everything there was to know in the Forbidden Scroll and he just needed to practice what he had learned to mastery. Mei took the Forbidden Scroll and tucked it way behind her chair. She tried to restrain her eagerness to start learning its secrets. Thank you, Naruto, I will assure you a clan compound and immediately install you as my personal advisor. Some will disagree, but I can put them in their place. Do not think this means you can command my forces, however. Of course not, Naruto said cheekily. Mei's eyes hardened. Good, just remember you are an advisor only and cannot command my shinobi. You can only command your eventual clan members. Now I have an empty clan compound that you can use. I expect you to begin repopulation within the week. I can have a suitable list of recipients in that time. I will of course assure they're to your liking. Naruto laughed. Oh, Mei-sama, you are a charmer. I am happy my Kage aims to please. Mei did not miss the obvious connotations Naruto was making. Mei beamed. Oh, Uzumaki-san, I think you should go see your new compound. Men who give me too many compliments tend to melt when I return the favor. Wisps of green vapor escaped her mouth and Naruto thought now would be a good time to leave the scary female Kage to her paperwork. Yup, I think I'll leave you to your paperwork, Naruto said quickly. He could sense the hidden threat. Ever since he transformed, he could detect negative emotions. He also wanted to leave before his instincts reared themselves again. Mei pressed a button on her desk. An Anbu with a shark mask walked inside the room. You need me, Mizukage-sama? Mei nodded. Yes, my new friend here will be taking the former Yuki compound for himself. Assure him a nice tour and help him get familiar with the village. The Anbu was stunned and nodded dumbly. Yes, Mizukage-sama. Naruto followed the Anbu out the door. He wondered just how he managed to pull that off. He managed to get a cage to agree to his terms and still come out of it alive. She's still so hot. This makes it pretty awkward working with her. The Anbu showed Naruto around the city. He showed Naruto all the bars and best shops. After that he showed Naruto around the harbor where Kirigakure's warships were produced. The man went into a monologue about the history of the village and Naruto listened raptly. Naruto was interested in the fourth Mizukage Yagure, who was a Jinchuriki. And so our dear Mizukage Mei threw the tyrant Yagura into a pool of lava and ended the tyrant's reign over our village. The Anbu exclaimed. The two now stood in front of the compound as the Anbu had explained the entire history of the village. The only parts Naruto found interesting was the part about Yagura and the first Mizukage. From what the Anbu said, the first Mizukage along with the Tsuchikage, Kasekage, and Reikage joined forces to kill Hashirama Senju. After Madara defected from Konohagakure, the other villages finally saw an opportunity to eliminate the strongest man in the world. All 4 Kage and over 1,000 Jonin from each village teamed together and ambushed the first Hokage while he was headed for a lone diplomatic mission. All of the 5,000 Jonin were from the clan wars and grizzled war veterans. The Anbu could not tell Naruto how the battle happened, only that Hashirama Senju emerged victorious, only to later succumb to his wounds. All 4 Kage and the 5,000 shinobi had been slaughtered to the last man. When Hashirama succumbed to his wounds, he attacked Konohagakure, which in turn sparked the First Shinobi World War. Naruto was amazed and terrified as he did not think even the former Kyuubi could have done such a thing. Hashirama and Madara were not human. There was no possible way they could be. Naruto's mind refused him to believe such a thing. They were monsters just like him. After all the explanations were said and done, Naruto walked through his new compound. The compound laid on the outskirts of the village near a small lake. The water was crystal clear. The compound was about half the size of the Uchiha clan and had a small district. It could potentially hold a few hundred people at most. He walked into a large dojo reserved for the clan head. It was built into the clan head's home and featured a 3-story mansion. The Anbu showed Naruto inside the compound and into his bedchambers. Naruto looked around the bedroom. Inside was a king-sized bed and a miniature built-in. A door in the bedroom led to a bathroom with a large bathtub that could fit several people. The Anbu motioned for Naruto to follow. So what could be more impressive than what I've seen so far, eh? Naruto asked. The Anbu chuckled. I think you will be surprised. The Yuki clan was quite wealthy before they all died out. Naruto walked into the backyard and onto a patio. He blinked. A large hot spring resided behind the clan head's mansion. Well, you weren't lying. Mind if I settle in now? The Anbu laughed. Sure, go ahead. I'll be back tomorrow if you need anything. Mei-sama will visit in a few days. Something about the finer details of your deal, as she put it. The way the Anbu phrased it made it sound so wrong. Okay, see ya around, Naruto retorted. When the Anbu was gone, Naruto let out a huge sigh. He cancelled the henge and his true form was revealed to the world. A rust-red furred fox stood in Naruto's place. His tail swayed excitedly as he hopped into the hot springs. The water splashed as Naruto floated to the surface. Damn, I needed that. Blah, I can figure this out later. I need a day to relax. Indeed, he would be spending the rest of the day living the fine life in his new private mansion in Hot Springs. Could life get better? In a dimly lit room, mechanical whirling was heard. Twin orbs opened with concentric lines emanating from a dot-like pupil. I can tell you are tense, Madara. A figure detached from the shadows behind Pain, or known by a select few as Nagato. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki is missing Nagato. When we launch this invasion, chaos will surely muddy our spy networks. Find the Jinchuriki's location before we launch the invasion. Once you have done so, initiate the plan immediately. We must storm the villages before they hide away the Jinchuriki. Nagato's eyes reflected a cold anger at being told what to do. He still hated the fact he was muscled into working for this man. Pain was a god. Still, Madara knew about his original body and could dispose of him any time. He would bide his time and finish Madara off one day. Until then, he would work for Madara as the two's goals were parallel, or so he believed. Understood. Madara-sama. Madara regarded his subordinate smugly. Good, see to it that you succeed. I won't tolerate failure. Madara left in a swirling distortion and Pain wanted to scream in anger. He would have his revenge against the immortal Uchiha no matter what. Zetsu's eyes roamed the landscape like a predator eyeing its meal. People of every age and nationality walked around the busy Kirigakure port. Hundreds of Zetsu clones silently stalked the city looking for their prey. Like a chameleon, Zetsu walked through the crowds in broad daylight, concealed by the reflecting light. Knowledge constantly flooded into Zetsu's head. Form his clones. Uzumaki recently made a deal with the Mizukage for asylum in exchange for the Forbidden Scroll. He is located on the village's outskirts. Perfect. Zetsu sneaked into an abandoned training field and waited. Soon the air shimmered and a gigantic chameleon revealed itself. The chameleon's mouth opened and Animal Path stepped out. Zetsu kneeled down. Report Zetsu, Pain commanded. Black Zetsu spoke, we have attained the position of the 9 tails. The rest are already in the process of being captured. Pain smirked, good work. I shall wait for Madara to finish capturing the 8 tails, then we may begin. White Zetsu frowned, is that wise? The Kyuubi Jinchuriki grows stronger every day. An incredible pressure washed over Zetsu. Pain beheld him with a murderous look, do not question your god, Zetsu. I will initiate the plan to conquer this corrupt world when Madara returns. That is final. Zetsu growled out an affirmative. Zetsu could not understand Pain's reasoning, but it was better to have the man believe he was an obedient dog. Pain smirked, seeing Zetsu follow his commands like a good subordinate. In truth, he needed the chaos of his Edo Tensei army. Once Madara attempted to capture the Kyuubi, Pain would pretend to assist. Once Madara was weakened, Pain would kill the ancient Uchiha. If that is all, I will have Animal Path on standby for the invasion. The rest of the major villages will be cinder by the end of tomorrow. Do not disappoint me, Zetsu. Pain stepped back into the chameleon and disappeared. Zetsu was left alone. Inwardly he fumed. White Zetsu was complaining about how Pain was a bitchy brat. Black Zetsu, however, was an entirely different story. Black Zetsu was different from the other Zetsus by a large margin. He was the incarnation of Madara's will. Madara before dying imprinted his will into a Zetsu and thus turned it black. Black Zetsu possessed Madara's knowledge but not his personality. He was only loyal to Madara, not Obito, not Pain, not Akatsuki. Black Zetsu was frustrated, that brat Pain is out of control. He does not realize it, but he has been watched for some time now. He plans to betray Obito. That is not even the worst part, because I suspect Obito does not plan on honoring his deal with Madara. If something is not done, Madara will never be revived. White Zetsu, hearing his counterpart's thoughts, joined in. Could we possibly set up a backup plan? The plan is already ruined. Pain has a near invincible army. Obito has become arrogant and will ruin everything. I doubt he can convince Pain to perform Rinne rebirth now. Black Zetsu thought about that. With all the cunning and knowledge that Madara possessed in life, he could make a plan. Madara must be resurrected. That's when it hit him. That Uzumaki brat had the Forbidden Scroll. The kid was easily manipulated and could be tricked into reviving Madara with the Edo Tensei. Orochimaru had perfected the technique to even reverse age with enough chakra put into the technique, Bijuu reserves of chakra. Yes, this might work. Zetsu's eyes shone with malice as he gazed at a distant compound. Naruto was nervous. Why, you might ask? Well, that was because the day had finally arrived for him to keep his end of the bargain. Naruto was nervously pacing inside his mansion. The girl that Mei hand-picked would arrive any time now. Naruto was in his henge, but that would not work for long. He needed utmost concentration to conceal himself and his massive chakra presence. In the throes of passion, he would revert to his true form. Damn, well, it can't be all that bad, Naruto told himself. Outside Naruto's mansion, a red-headed woman walked up to the Uzumaki mansion. Her name was Asami Terumi. Mei Terumi's cousin and one of the last few wielders of the lava and boil release bloodline. Asami had luscious flowing dark red hair and wore a black one-piece dress. The dress was made of silk and hugged her curves. Asami wore red high heels and had her hair braided. She knocked on Naruto's front door and waited. Naruto was busily checking himself for any problems with his henge when someone knocked on his door. Coming, he yelled. Naruto opened his door to find a beautiful red-headed girl around 17 years of age. Wow, she's hot. Outwardly Naruto flashed her a smirk. And what's your name? I'm assuming Mei sent you? Asami blushed. Yes. Mei-sama sent me to complete my duty as one of the village's kunoichi. Her face was red as she finished. Naruto laughed at her embarrassed expression. He was just as embarrassed, however, he was just better at hiding it. Come in. I have just the place to relax in the back, Naruto said smoothly. He should have been completely nervous at his predicament, but he had days to prepare himself mentally. He had been reading books on what to expect and how to keep himself in control. Thank you, Naruto. Asami followed Naruto through the mansion and into the back. Asami was surprised to find a huge hot spring waiting for her. The water was completely clear and steam rose in copious amount. Mei sure downplayed how nice this compound was. I can't wait for the main course. Asami thought. Time skip. Use your imagination. Naruto gave her a grin. Well, I hope I satisfied you. Asami grinned back. I think you might have gotten me pregnant with how much you came. Naruto almost flinched. He had not been thinking about that when he had lost control. Slowly he felt something whisper in his head. Like a memory not his own, he recalled himself in a different time. The memory played out with each girl he bedded becoming pregnant. The memories cut off and Naruto groaned. What was that? The last Kyuubi's memories. Does this mean if I release inside a woman she will get pregnant no matter what? Naruto's answer would have to wait. He flashed Asami a grin. That was nice, maybe we could try again sometime? Sure, just hit me up. I live with the rest of my family in the Terumi compound. I hope to bear some children soon for the village. We suffered a lot, she said with sadness. After that the two washed up from their activities and Naruto bid her goodbye. Asami walked back to the village with Naruto's watchful gaze behind her. Once Asami was out of eyesight, Naruto walked back inside his mansion and walked to his bedroom. Naruto was feeling quite satisfied. As Naruto went to lay down for a nap, he contemplated what had happened. As sleep claimed Naruto, he looked forward to the coming days. 2 weeks later, Killer Bee screamed as his Bijuu was extracted from him. Soon his screams went silent as the last of his Bijuu was extracted. The body dropped onto the cave floor with a thump. The chakra flowed into the Gedo Mazo. Obito watched the chakra receding into the demonic statue with glee. Over the last few days the Akatsuki had brought in all the tailed beasts except the Kyuubi. The eternal dream was nearing and he could taste victory. Obito, not Madara, not Pain, or anyone else would be the savior of this wretched world. Everyone in the Akatsuki let out a deep breath once the extraction was finished. Many of them had been there for a week straight. Sasori looked the most ragged as he did not have a human body and had lower chakra reserves, preferring perfect chakra control over raw power. Pain motioned for everyone's attention. Good work, everyone. Now that we have 8 Bijuu under our control, we may enact the plan. Many of the members were shocked. Wait. Leader Sama, I thought you said we would initiate the plan when all 9 Bijuu were captured? Pain looked at the offending member. Deidara was the one who had spoken out. Pain decided that he must answer or Madara would be suspicious. You are correct. The plan was changed because recent intelligence has suggested that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki is stronger than I anticipated. I have decided to go myself and bring along Konan and Tobi to apprehend the Jinchuriki. Obito was surprised as he did not know about this. Obito glared at Pain through his one eye hole. You bastard. You did not inform me of this. Obito would not move unless Pain acted directly against him, yet this rebellious action rankled him. After the Kyuubi was captured, Obito would kill Pain and take his Rinnegan for himself. Until then he would play along. Pain continued talking, oblivious to Obito's thoughts. Now that we have our army ready, we can start the invasion tomorrow. Each Akatsuki pair will be tasked with a village to invade. Orochimaru and Konohagakure are on our side, so they will not be needed in this plan. Orochimaru smirked as he planned Pain's demise. His summoning circle was almost complete and he could not wait until he stood over Pain's dead body and extracted those precious Rinnegan eyes. Now Deidara and Sasori will be tasked with eliminating Sanokage. Make sure to leave no one alive. I do not care how you do it. Deidara laughed. I will show them my art on. Sasori grunted. I will enjoy annihilating a pathetic village and making them into an eternal masterpiece. Everyone's sweat dropped at the two's antics. Now Kisame will be tasked with eliminating Kumogakure. Kisame gave Pain a shark-like grin. It would be a pleasure, Leader Sama. Pain resisted the urge to roll his eyes. Now finally Hidan and Kakuzu will destroy Iwagakure. Fuck yes. Jashin-sama be praised. Everyone flinched at Hidan's yell. Kakuzu impaled Hidan in the throat and sewed his mouth shut. Kisame and Deidara laughed at Hidan's pissed-off expression. Pain coughed to get everyone attention. Well, that concludes our meeting. Be ready for the invasion in the morning. As the members left, Pain caught Madara glaring at him as he walked out. Pain narrowed his eyes. Yes, glare all you want. Your time is up, Uchiha. Later that night, a banging noise woke Naruto from his sleep. He groggily got up from the bed and walked to the door. He barely remembered to activate his henge before he opened the door. A rotted corpse lied on his doorstep. It took a moment. What the fuck? Naruto was instantly awake. He looked at the corpse in red battle armor that seemed vaguely familiar. It looked like an old man in his 90s had been shuffled into the armor and dropped on his doorstep. What sick fuck left this on my door? Naruto spotted a note on the body. Careful not to step on the body, he grabbed the note to see what was on it. Mysterious writer. Dear Naruto Uzumaki. I am someone interested in your well-being. I recently heard through the grapevine that an organization known as Akatsuki is about to invade the elemental countries. They will use an army of Edo Tensei shinobi. Don't believe me? Well, if you don't, that's fine. I am aware that you are in possession of a kinjutsu that can revive the dead. Let me tell you that reviving the person on your doorstep is in your best interest. In your supply closet you should find a criminal that will work as a sacrifice. Naruto dropped the scroll. This person knew too much about him. How had they gotten into his home? He looked at the dead man suspiciously. Who is this old guy? How did this mysterious person find me? He knew the answers lied in the dead body in front of him. If the mysterious writer was telling the truth, then his new home was in danger. He made a decision. He grabbed the corpse and brought it to the room he had been using to practice Edo Tensei. He had never actually revived anyone, but the theory should work. He dropped the body into the center and began preparations. He summoned a Kage Bunshin. Go and get the body from the supply closet. His clone nodded and he began writing seals. After an hour the preparations were complete. Naruto put the criminal's body in the center of the seal and put the old man's on the transference seal. The criminal was gagged so he could not talk. Naruto was not sure if he could go through with it if he dared to look the bound man in the eye. Naruto appraised his work. Everything is set. Let's get this show started. He channeled chakra into the technique. Over the last few weeks his control has improved phenomenally, but he was still the Kyuubi, a creature with enough chakra to destroy the world. Thousands of Jonin-level reserves flooded the technique. The old man's body dissolved as well as the criminals from the intense chakra. Soon debris and dust coalesced into a shape in the center of the circle. The sheer amount of chakra Naruto put into the technique overloaded it, causing a blinding glow to shine from the seal. Naruto could barely see the figure from the insane amount of chakra he was pumping into the technique. The torso was constructed, followed by the arms, clothing, and head. Slowly the technique died down, revealing the man to the world. Naruto opened his eyes and gasped. What the? The man in the circle slowly stood up, revealing a figure wearing red samurai-styled armor and wearing the Uchiha crest. The man was in his early 20s. Naruto knew this man. Everyone did. The man lifted his head, showing his Mangekyo Sharingan. This man was Uchiha Madara. What? Where? Who has revived me? Madara looked around curiously, obviously confused. Madara looked at Naruto and almost as if seeing through his henge he took a step back in surprise. Naruto was just as surprised and decided now might be a good time to talk before something drastic happened. Hello, my name is Naruto. Madara looked surprised seeing him talk. Do my eyes deceive me? Impossible. You are not the Kyuubi. Madara saw clean through Naruto's henge and recognized he had been revived with Edo Tensei. He was shocked to see a miniature Kyuubi talking most of all. What was even more surprising was when he looked deeper he could see a human soul instead of the Jubi's soul fragment. Naruto flinched at Madara's glare. The man entered a battle stance ready to fight. Wait, I'm the one who revived you. Naruto said quickly. Madara gave him a suspicious look. If so, why would you revive your worst enemy? I don't know what you're talking about. I absorbed the Kyuubi with a kinjutsu and I found your body on my doorstep. Naruto yelled out. Explain, Madara commanded. Naruto went into his life story, explaining how he had fled from his village and learned the secrets of the Forbidden Scroll. He went into the details of the last few days. Madara was pissed. He was supposed to be resurrected by his subordinate Obito when all the Bijuu had been collected. Something must have gone wrong for this mess to happen. What made him furious, however, was the fact Naruto had unintentionally ruined his plans. When Naruto absorbed the Kyuubi, his human chakra was mixed in with the much more vast Kyuubi chakra. While this would not have any effect on Naruto, it did mean the Gedo Mazo could no longer sync with it. Madara wanted to scream as he would be forced to think of an alternative plan. Decades gone to waste. Wait a moment. Madara stopped Naruto as he was ranting about his childhood. Boy. Naruto, I mean. I believe we might be able to form a partnership. How would you like to bring world peace? Join forces with me, and with our power we can make the world a better place. Naruto was caught off guard by the directness of the question. Can I have a moment to think that over? Madara nodded. Naruto took a thinking pose. Memories of him fleeing from Konoha and reading about the Sandame's cowardly acts were brought to mind. Next he remembered the mysterious note and its warning of an impending attack. Naruto shut his eyes. Naruto let out a deep breath. He faced the grinning Madara. I am listening. Madara chuckled. I knew you would be interested. Now am I to believe there is some sort of attack that will soon happen from what you say? Naruto nodded. Okay, that makes it easier. We will begin our partnership by crushing all those that oppose us. If Naruto was put off by the way Madara said that, he did not show it. Naruto knew this guy did not screw around. We will crush the Akatsuki and take their Bijuu from them. I want you, Naruto, to use your chakra drain technique on a special statue they have in their possession. What is so important about this statue, and why me? Naruto asked. Madara sat down on a nearby chair. This would take a while. That is because they are in possession of a statue that they use to extract Bijuu with. This statue will contain the other tailed beasts, and I need you to absorb them. Naruto went wide-eyed. What? What would even happen if I did that? I told you what happened last time I absorbed a Bijuu. Naruto shut up when Madara gave him a hard look. Madara pushed down his irritation. That is because once all 10 Bijuu come together, it creates the 10 tails. The 10 tails is the most powerful of the Bijuu, and with it you could easily do anything. I need you to become the 10 tails and help me achieve world peace. Naruto felt skeptical. It was hard enough to stomach the idea of accepting his current self. Absorbing the other Bijuu just made him sick. What would he be then? How could he trust a guy he just met anyway? Naruto decided to push down those feelings of mistrust for later. He decided to ask Madara the most important question. Will I change my form or will I stay the same? Madara was unsure how to answer that. Deciding to be honest, he answered, I'm unsure. You could turn into the Kyuubi or you could stay the same. Quote, Naruto was downcast, but the prospect of peace was too much to turn down because he was a wimp. He remembered his promise to Iruka. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I promise to never be a coward again. Naruto closed his eyes. I will do it. I will absorb the Kyuubi and help you bring peace. Madara's mouth curled upwards. This partnership with Naruto had good prospects. Naruto was much stronger than Obito and seemed to want peace for the right reasons. Perhaps his plan could be saved yet. Madara looked out the window towards the moon and grinned. The morning rays of sunshine cast a glow on Naruto's blonde hair. Naruto woke with a yawn. Getting up, Naruto looked around his room. The room was painted blue. He yawned. Wonder what surprise today brings. Unbidden, the memories of last night popped up. Naruto got up and walking to the clan dojo. He didn't bother putting on his henge as Madara could see through it. He walked inside the dojo. The dojo was quite spacious with a traditional kiri design. Naruto looked around and spotted Madara meditating in the center of the room. He walked up to the ancient Uchiha, meditating. I see. Madara opened his eyes. Power rolled off Madara in waves. He looked at Naruto. Yes. I was practicing senjutsu. Confused, Naruto wondered what senjutsu was. Senjutsu? It is the ability to draw in nature chakra. Nature chakra is the chakra emitted by all living things. It permeates everything in this world. You must be still to draw nature chakra in and use it as your own. Senjutsu chakra can enhance the bearer to extraordinary levels. Madara explained. Naruto was floored. An inexhaustible energy source. He wondered what he could do with senjutsu and his own chakra. Naruto grinned at Madara. Think you could teach me that? Madara chuckled. While I admire your enthusiasm, I doubt we will have enough time. I have the feeling before the day is up we will have the fight of our lives. As Madara finished that sentence, an idea popped in his head. Maybe I could teach him senjutsu in time. Naruto sighed. He really wished he could have learned senjutsu. Madara noticed Naruto pout and felt reminded of his younger brother Izuna. Madara scowled inwardly. Stop this silly meandering. The boy will be my path to godhood. Madara remembered something important. Naruto was broken from his musing when Madara spoke. You know Naruto, I believe we need to get better acquainted. What do you mean? I told you my story, didn't I? Your story is well known. Naruto asked. Madara was reminded that Naruto was an adolescent despite being in the body of a Bijuu. Naruto would not know the intricacies of war. Madara thought about how to go about this. Yes, my story is well known and you have told you your own. The problem we face is that we have never fought together, and we should learn to fight as a team. Quote, Naruto felt stupid. He could not believe he had overlooked that little tidbit. How could I let myself forget that? I'm going into the fight of my life and I don't even know anything about Madara's abilities. Naruto felt stupid. Well, I never thought of that. So how do we learn to fight as a team? Madara stood up, having finished meditating. Well, we can start by doing a lengthy training session. We don't actually have time for a real training session, so I am improvising. Naruto wondered what Madara meant. The Mangekyo Sharingan formed in Madara's eyes and Naruto was captured in Madara's Tsukiyomi. Naruto gasped as he appeared in the Tsukiyomi. The world was a white space that stretched forever. Madara appeared in front of Naruto similar to a Shushin. Naruto looked around alarmed. What the fuck is this? He looked at Madara sincerely hoping the Uchiha was not planning on betraying him. He was royally fucked if Madara planned anything. Madara gave Naruto a laugh. This is my Tsukiyomi, a world of infinite possibilities, and where we will learn teamwork. Madara waved his and an image of Konohagakure appeared. They stood on the Hokage monument as the city lay below them. Naruto was absolutely stunned. He had never considered such a thing possible. He looked at Madara with a questioning look. How does being in a genjutsu help us learn teamwork? That is simple. This genjutsu slows time. 3 seconds in the real world is 72 hours here. My undying body and unlimited chakra along with your immortal body will allow us to train in here indefinitely. I will train you to utilize your new body and bring you near my level. Madara explained with a smug look. Naruto was floored. That meant, you're training me? Naruto exclaimed loudly. Madara wore a grin Naruto did not like. You may call it that. Let the training begin. Months later inside the Tsukiyomi. Naruto stood under the sandy Suna desert. The Tsukiyomi mimicked the arid desert perfectly right down to the sweltering heat and sun. Giant sand dunes and rocky cropping were very prominent around them. Madara stood beside Naruto wearing his arrogant smirk. Naruto had changed slightly over the months inside the Tsukiyomi with the arrogant Uchiha. Naruto had mastered all 5 elemental natures, senjutsu, and various jutsu. Naruto now was slightly more arrogant and at Madara's urging showed a dominating side on the battlefield. Naruto's skills had increased to amazing proportions. Madara had decided to make them mortal inside the Tsukiyomi to train their skills. Madara told Naruto that if they were immortal that they would become arrogant and it would be their eventual downfall. Each time they died it would serve as a failure. Opposite them stood every Kage and ninja that ever existed in the elemental nations. The current 5 Kage and all of their predecessors stood a good distance away. Over 900,000 shinobi stood opposing them. They were all frozen in time as Madara had not willed the battle to start yet. Naruto looked at Madara. Isn't this overkill? Madara scoffed. Please, the only ones worrying about are the Hokage. The rest will quickly become fodder. After this we may return to the real world and recuperate before our fight begins. We may have immortal bodies but it will take several hours of meditation to recover from the mental fatigue of this Tsukiyomi. Naruto nodded. He had been agreeing with Madara a lot lately. The elder Uchiha had wisdom beyond his apparent age. Naruto sometimes wondered how Madara knew so much about current events but respectfully kept his space. He did not want to offend the man as he was Naruto's best ticket for survival. In the months that Naruto had been here he had developed a bond of camaraderie with Madara and the two's teamwork was phenomenal. The shinobi alliance facing them shimmered and they started moving. The imaginary battle had begun. Madara made hand signals in his own custom sign language, prepare for attack. Naruto nodded. The opposing enemy alliance moved towards them slowly. The duo readied themselves. Naruto took deep breaths. He spotted Lord Mu and Onoki skyward preparing their Jinten. Moving his eyes, he spotted the 4 Hokage in a 4-man squad leading the charge. The Mizukages were in the back of the alliance preferring support roles. The Kages were in the middle of the massive group preparing a slew of iron, golden, and regular sand-based attacks. The 3 Sannin and Hanzo the Salamander were to the far east of the massive alliance and seemed geared towards a small combat unit. The Raikages were following behind the Hokages and seemed intent on rending Naruto and Madara to pieces. Naruto narrowed his looking for something in particular. There, all 9 Bijuu were approaching from the west of their position. The Kyuubi looked exactly like Naruto's true form and was formed from Madara's memories. Naruto whistled. "You sure we can win against this Madara?" Madara laughed. "Trust me. Nothing can stop us." Naruto agreed. "Good, now let's win this and get back to the real world." The fight had begun. The enemy forces were less than a mile out now. Madara formed his Susanoo and formed 3 simultaneous hand seals with the Susanoo, shattered heaven. Gigantic meteors entered the sky from the upper atmosphere. Over 6 gigantic meteors followed by 6 more broke through the clouds. Mu and Onoki peeled off and used their Jinten to destroy the incoming rocks. Naruto laughed. "Let's get wild." Naruto's form glowed and exploded into a red haze. Naruto rose to his full height in Kyuubi form. He towered over mountains and growled at the puny shinobi. Naruto raised one clawed hand up and formed a Rasen Shuriken with his Yuki. Tailed Beast Ball Rasen Shuriken. Naruto raised the potent orb of destruction and threw it. The Rasen Shuriken raced towards the Shinobi Alliance, promising certain death should it go off. A distortion appeared in the air and the Rasen Shuriken disappeared. Naruto's eyes narrowed as he saw Kakashi with his Mangekyo out. Madara jumped on top of Naruto's head. "You should have anticipated that, Naruto. Our enemies may be imaginary, but they are the culmination of all of my knowledge about them. They will display only what you and I know about them, and I know quite a bit." Madara chided. Naruto scowled. "I forgot about that ability. I'm still surprised you know so much." What Naruto did not say was that he thought it was total bull. How could Madara know about what happened after he died? Naruto had grown somewhat close to the Uchiha since their time in Tsukiyomi, though he still did not know much about the man. He did not want to offend his friend, so he chalked it up to some sort of jutsu that let you see into the future. The man possessed the Rinnegan, so it wasn't really that far-fetched. Naruto looked towards the Shinobi Alliance. "Let's get serious, shall we?" Madara nodded. "Let's." Madara formed his perfect Susanoo and covered Naruto in it. Naruto normally felt invincible in his true form. With Madara's perfect Susanoo he felt unstoppable. The Susanoo covered Naruto in its ethereal armor and a sword formed in Naruto's clawed hand. Up above, the Tsuchikages were busily blasting the falling rocks. Gigantic meteorite chunks were falling on the Shinobi Alliance, decimating them. They were all so close together that they could not dodge. Madara's Susanoo finished covering Naruto. It happened not a moment too soon. Hashirama broke formation with the other shinobi approaching. The rest of the shinobi were only half a mile out and Hashirama was quickly gaining ground. The other shinobi were preparing their own jutsu. Hashirama prepared his most powerful jutsu. Sage Art. Mokuton. True several thousand hands. A giant colossal 1-kilometer statue appeared with thousands of wooden hands. Madara scowled. "Naruto, we must destroy that before it gets within range." "On it," Naruto yelled. Naruto charged forward, utilizing his shinobi knowledge to move faster than he possibly should. The ground broke underfoot. A gigantic Rasengan over 10 times bigger than himself appeared in his hand. The Udama Rasengan had a fiery aura and blazed with fire. Thousands of wooden hands raced towards them. If Hashirama struck the first blow, it was over. Naruto growled as the hands approached. The hands reached forward. Time slowed down. The 1-kilometer wide statue was about to smash Naruto and Madara to oblivion. Behind Naruto, the 9 Bijuu approached, each preparing their own Bijuudama. All of the Kage were approaching with their personal jutsu ready. The Shinobi Alliance had been decimated by the falling rocks, but some still lived. As the attacks neared, Naruto let a vulpine grin grow and disappeared with a shushin. Hashirama was surprised as the Kyuubi and his arch-nemesis disappeared into thin air. It did not last long as the Bijuu from the 9 Bijuu missed and obliterated him and the statue. Naruto and Madara appeared within the remains of the Shinobi Alliance. Naruto raised the Susanoo's sword and slashed. Like an invisible wave of destruction, the entire Shinobi Alliance was cut down. The Susanoo's sword swept over the Alliance and cut down 3 mountains that resided behind them. Tens of thousands of shinobi were annihilated. Naruto slammed all 9 of his tails into the ground. Earthquakes caused fissures to open all over the battlefield. The continent rumbled and the entire land of wind cracked open. Gigantic geysers of lava burst forth and covered the battlefield. The regular shinobi were helpless and perished. The cage, however, were just fine. Madara glanced around, taking a tally of the remaining forces. Naruto in Kyuubi form stood in a vast lake of boiling lava. Geysers spewed molten death all around them. The lava, however, was less than effective against the dual protection of Naruto's Bijuu form and the perfect Susanoo. Naruto smugly looked around at their combined destruction. Madara looked around in nostalgia. Madara had not seen such destruction since the good old days with Hashirama. "What a nice picture, would you not agree, Naruto?" Madara said in a joking manner. Naruto laughed, "You're sure more laid back since I first met you." Madara scowled, "Don't get any ideas, boy." Naruto smirked at his red-armored friend. The old Uchiha would pretend he did not care, but Naruto could sense the lack of negative emotions. The old Uchiha had warmed up to him even if he would not admit it. Their enemies were gathering together, Naruto noticed. The Tsuchikages, Hokages, except Hashirama, Mizukages, and Raikages were gathered together. The Kazekages had been obliterated with the rest of the alliance, considering they were in the thick of the group. Naruto looked around for the others. He did not sense Kakashi, so he could assume he was dead. The Sannin and Hanzo were keeping a safe distance from the lava while Hanzo prepared a jutsu to cool off the lava. They were situated to their east. The 9 Bijuu were rapidly approaching from their south. Without warning, a vast ocean of water appeared. It burst from the ground and materialized from the air itself. Tobirama Senju was seen performing one of his powerful jutsu, Ocean's Embrace. A jutsu that summoned a vast amount of water that required Bijuu-level reserves. The other 2 Hokage were seen channeling their chakra into Tobirama. The cage were a quarter of a mile away on a high rise. The water was cooling the lava and ridding Naruto of his buffer between them. Naruto looked at the approaching tidal wave with anticipation. Naruto looked upwards towards Madara, conveying his intention. Madara nodded. Madara channeled chakra from his eyes through his body and into Naruto. Naruto went through hand seals of his own, Kaden combination jutsu. Devil's Breath, Madara and Naruto's chakra mixed. Hellish black flames spewed from Naruto's maw and shot towards the approaching cage. Water rose to Tobirama's defense. Minato Hirai shined to Tobirama's support and used the fire sealing method to seal any of the flames that made it through the water. Naruto scowled and was blindsided when a long staff impacted his stomach. The staff failed to break the Susanoo and Naruto cleaved the staff in 2 with his sword. The staff sprayed blood and disappeared in a poof. "Naruto, pay attention," Madara commanded. Naruto looked behind him and noticed the 9 Bijuu approaching. Madara looked towards the Bijuu eagerly. He focused on them with his Rinnegan, Limbo. An unseen force sent the Bijuu hurtling backwards into a tumble. Like a godly Shinra Tensei, the Bijuu were smashed. Naruto looked over at the Bijuu surprised. "Damn, that is overpowered," Naruto thought. With the 9 Bijuu out of the equation for a while, they could focus on the cage. Beams of destruction rained down on them and the 3rd Raikage shushined on top of Naruto's head. The 3rd Raikage appeared on top of Madara with lightning blazing in hand. 1 finger hell stab. The 2nd and 3rd Tsuchikage appeared overhead with their respective Jinten. The 2 blasted Naruto with the atomic beams. Naruto decided to let Madara handle them and focus on the other cage. The Hokages and Mizukage faced him down. On top of Naruto's head, Madara was not even surprised to see the Raikage appear. Under Madara's armor, sage markings appeared on Hashirama's face. Madara ducked under the Raikage's hell stab and before the man even had time to react, Madara kneed the Raikage with bone-breaking force. The bear of a man hacked blood and Madara head-butted the man. The third Raikage's lightning armor did nothing as Madara leached the lightning armor off with his Preta path. Madara gripped the Raikage and ripped his soul out. The man slumped over dead. Twin beams of destruction from the Tsuchikage raced towards him. Madara looked upwards, pathetic. Madara absorbed the beams with Preta path and used Limbo. The two Jinten users were instantly killed as their heads were blown clean off. Madara laughed, "This may be an illusion, but I can't help but enjoy this." Moments later, Naruto was currently destroying the cage. All of the Mizukages had been killed as they had no large-scale jutsu or escape techniques. All of the Tsuchikages were dead as the first had fallen prey to the earlier lava geysers. Naruto had felt the last two Tsuchikages perish by Madara's hand. The Sannin had joined the battlefield only to die when Naruto slammed a boss-summon-sized Rasengan into them. Hanzo died when Naruto spewed black flames and utterly destroyed him. The only cage left was Tobirama. Tobirama jumped aside as a large armored claw impacted his previous position. Tobirama was breathing heavily as he ran low on chakra. Naruto had been keeping the man on his feet. Tobirama was preparing to dodge the next strike when he froze. Like an invisible force, he was restrained to the ground. He did not dodge when Naruto slammed his fist into the ground. Naruto grinned, finally having killed the annoying man. Madara smirked at his successful usage of Limbo. The duo finally faced the last remaining threat. The 9 Bijuu. Naruto and Madara looked towards the Bijuu coolly, each mirroring a smug expression of superiority. The Bijuu had recovered from the utter beating Madara gave them. Naruto looked towards his partner, "End it?" Madara chuckled, "If you insist." Limbo. An unseen force hammered the 9 Bijuu into the ground repeatedly. Madara dropped the perfect Susanoo and formed hand seals. A gigantic demonic-looking statue appeared and Madara jumped to it. Large ethereal chains came out of the statue's mouth and impaled the immobile Bijuu. The Bijuu tried to fight back, but it proved useless. The Bijuu were dragged inside the statue. Naruto's sweat dropped. That was ridiculous. The world shimmered and the duo returned to the white space that Naruto remembered when he first came here. Madara faced Naruto with a serious expression. "It seems I trained you well, Naruto. You have exceeded my expectations. That statue you saw is a containment device for the Bijuu, so don't be alarmed." Naruto was surprised. He did not expect the Uchiha would feel the need to explain himself. It showed he valued Naruto. "It's fine. You can explain after we defeat Akatsuki. We have all the time we need to contemplate our plans after we win." Madara nodded, secretly relieved he would not need explain his plans. That would quickly cause a very violent disagreement between them. Madara still wondered if he truly valued Naruto as a student or friend. The blonde was rubbing off on him slightly and that irked him. The blonde needed to become the Kyuubi. Once Naruto became the Kyuubi, Madara would seal Naruto in himself and initiate the infinite Tsukiyomi. Madara could free the blonde after the infinite Tsukiyomi was cast as a repayment. The blonde did not have a Sharingan and could not hope to undo the jutsu, so he was fine with releasing him. Madara brought himself back to the conversation at hand. "Alright, now that we have trained and prepared, we can take the Akatsuki and their army on. Once I end this jutsu, we will go into a 3-hour meditative trance. We will be vulnerable during this time." Naruto's felt his anticipation boil over. "Alright then, let's do it." Madara chuckled at Naruto's light-hearted mood. Madara released the technique and the two entered the real world. Naruto woke with a start. He noticed his henge was still active. The world greeted him for the first time in months, though it had only been hours in reality. The reality that greeted Naruto was not a pleasant one. Naruto felt a stone drop in his stomach as screaming and the smell of burning flesh greeted him. "What is happening?" Naruto yelled. A creaking sound echoed throughout the room. Madara slowly got up. "That would be war, Naruto." Naruto ran outside in a rush, hoping that Mei or the people he had come to know over the last few weeks were okay. Madara made no move to stop him. "Please be okay," Naruto thought. When Naruto got outside, his heart sank. Kiri was burning to the ground. An endless horde of Edo Tensei were swarming over the burning village. Naruto spotted the inhabitants of the village and wanted to retch. Thousands of people were hewn up on pikes. The Edo Tensei had impaled the terrified Kiri inhabitants and hoisted them on pikes for all to see. Not too far away, Pain watched the emotional Naruto. Pain smirked. Pain's plan had been to enrage Naruto and make the Kyuubi Jinchuriki lose control. Once the boy lost control, it would be easy for Pain to corral the beast and seal it. Naruto felt tears forming in his eyes. He had gotten a new home and a new life, only for the Akatsuki to take it all away. The thought of Asami and his unborn child dead made his heart shatter. Naruto slumped to his knees in despair. Naruto wept. Why did he have to suffer? I'll kill them all. The Akatsuki and anyone who tries to stop me. He thought darkly. He was brought out of his thoughts when a figure landed before him. The man wore the Akatsuki cloak Madara had described to him. The man had orange hair and multiple piercings. The man had the same Rinnegan eyes that Madara had. 6 figures landed next to the man. One more appeared in a swirling distortion. He wore the standard black cloak with red clouds adorned with an orange swirl mask. The first man faced Naruto stoically. Naruto Uzumaki, you will come with me. Naruto's hair shadowed his face. He gritted his teeth at the men who had taken everything from him. Soot and ash fell to the ground between them, staining the soil black. The normally blue Kiri sky had turned black. The fires from the village were approaching and would soon engulf the compound. Before anything else could happen, a figure stepped out from the dojo. Obito looked towards whoever was interrupting them and felt his heart stop briefly. Madara Uchiha stepped out of the dojo wearing his trademark grin. Pain was equally shocked as he believed Obito was the real Madara. Madara faced Pain and Obito. Did I miss something? Obito choked up. Pain glared at Obito. Who are you, imposter? If this is the real Madara, then who are you? Obito felt Pain's glare all too well. Obito tried to come up with a reply quickly. Madara was with the Kyuubi Jinchuriki for some unknown reason and he needed a plan quickly. Obito glared at Pain and replied in a harsh voice, it does not matter who I am. We have the same goals and these two stand in our way. Pain's face hardened, but he glanced at Naruto and Madara, seeing that he needed the assistance. Obito smirked beneath his mask. Why don't we settle our little dispute after these two are dead? I think I can settle for that, Pain said stoically. Of course he intended to kill Obito after all was said and done, so why not work together for now? Obito was thinking along the same lines. Madara glanced towards Naruto. Naruto, get yourself together. You can grieve later. Now we have a fight on our hands. Naruto felt himself heave. Sorrow and rage filled him. He glanced over at the ancient Uchiha. They're mine. Madara simply nodded. Naruto glared hatefully at Pain and his paths. Pain smirked, seeing him in pain. Do you like the pain I brought you, boy? Pain asked smugly. Naruto did not rise to the jab and instead focused on the environment. Madara had taught him senjutsu within the Tsukiyomi, so he would not need to rely on his Yuki so much. Feral markings appeared around his eyes and forehead. His claws that were masked beneath his henge sharpened and his chakra's potency increased tenfold. Naruto snarled at the two, let's do this. Pain noticed the swirling energy around Naruto and saw what he thought was a masterfully placed henge. Pain could not make out what was underneath, however. Pain had never practiced seeing beneath such things, as he believed himself all-powerful and had no need to see past such deceptions. Madara smirked, seeing them unable to see past his student's henge. Madara admitted he was only able to see past the Yuki-influenced henge because he had experience in seeing past Hashirama's wood clones. No one else besides him was trained to be able to see to the very core of a person. Naruto's chakras swirled around him in red hues. Obito and Pain sweated at the sheer presence Naruto excluded. Baleful red eyes glared at them hatefully. You took everything from me, die. Naruto jumped forward. Madara stayed behind, preferring to see Naruto's progress. Naruto's sheer speed shocked Obito, who had prided himself with nearly beating the Yellow Flash. Naruto flashed in front of Obito. Naruto aimed to impale the one-eyed Uchiha through the head. Naruto was shocked when his hand phased right though Obito's head. Obito leaned backwards and reached for Naruto's wrist. Warning bells went off in Naruto's head and he expelled a burst of Yuki from his arm. The potent Yuki exploded from his arm and flash-fried Obito's arm. Obito screamed as his right arm was vaporized from the intense Yuki. Damn you! Naruto was about to follow up with a decapitating blow, while Obito was blinded by the pain, when a figure blocked his path. Preta Path grabbed Naruto's outstretched hand and Naruto felt the man try to absorb his energy. Naruto realized what was happening and grinned beastly. Pain watched the immobilized Naruto with satisfaction. The Jinchuriki was done for. His Preta path was sucking in the boy's chakra and would soon fall unconscious. Asura path appeared behind Naruto with its arm raised. A needle extended from Asura's arm with a sedative dripping from it. Naruto saw the path appear from the corner of his eye. Now, Naruto lifted Preta path off the ground with strength that should be impossible for his size. Pain watched shocked as Naruto lifted his path like it was nothing. Naruto twisted to face Pain's Asura path and placed Preta in between them. Asura impaled Preta path and Naruto channeled over 2 taels worth of chakra into the path. Preta path glowed with the corrosive energy and expanded. Pain blanched as both his paths were destroyed in the ensuing explosion. Tons of dust were kicked up and the surrounding buildings and dojo were destroyed. A blur shot from the dust. Naruto appeared behind Pain's Diva path and decapitated him before he could realize what had happened. Animal and human path formed a defensive formation around the Naraka path. Naruto faced them with a cool facade. Naruto looked over the remaining enemies, noticing that Obito was gone. Naruto felt a presence behind him and ducked. A grasping hand flew overhead and Naruto formed an ethereal Yuki hand. Obito flew above Naruto, cursing the boy for taking his arm. The Yuki phased through Obito and the Uchiha rolled on the ground before jumping to Pain's remaining paths. Naruto noticed Naraka attempting to revive Diva path and would not let that happen. Naruto, seeing this, formed hand seals. Kaden. Great Fire Annihilation. Fire formed in Naruto's throats before expelling in an inferno. Madara smirked, seeing his student forming one of his favorite jutsu. The fire expelled from Naruto and formed a massive wall of flames that neither of the 2 Akatsuki had any hope of extinguishing. The last 3 remaining paths panicked. They had nothing that could hope to stop that. Obito glared at Naruto as the Jinchuriki performed S-rank jutsu like nothing. Tobi grunted as he formed hand seals. This would take a lot of chakra. Mokuton. Wood wall. A wall of interlocking wood formed between the Akatsuki and Naruto. The wall of flames met the wood and stopped. The fire clung fiercely to the wood. Obito was about to sigh in relief when Naruto burst through the wooden wall and flames without any burns or cuts. Naruto savored the horrified look on Obito's face when he burst through the wall. The flames did not even harm his reinforced body. Naruto channeled chakra into his own personal Shushin that relied on Yuki instead of chakra. Naruto seemingly teleported in front of Obito. It happened so suddenly Obito could not even turn intangible. Naruto's razor-sharp claws impaled Obito through his left eye. The Uchiha shuddered and spasmed as he went through the throes of death. Finally, a sick grin adorned Naruto's face as he killed one of the men who had hurt him. Pain watched in horror as this monster decimated a man even he would be wary of fighting. Pain looked over at the real Madara and saw the Uchiha looking bored at their fight. This is impossible. Naruto slowly turned to the last remaining paths. Crimson-slit eyes looked at Pain hungrily. You're the last one now, aren't you? Naruto approached Pain, intending to finally end it. Pain felt himself gripped with fear. This monster had destroyed his Diva path and taken away his most powerful techniques. He could not hope to win without his most powerful path. This demon would not defeat him. Naruto grinned as the paths backed away. Naruto was about to engage with Pain again when Madara spoke. Naruto, do not waste time with them. The real Rinnegan user is hiding in a fake tree a mile to the south. Naruto looked over his shoulder at Madara. Naruto turned back to the remaining paths. Pain froze when those crimson orbs looked at him. Naruto disappeared and reappeared behind the frozen paths. A moment passed, then blood sprayed as they died. Under a fake tree south of Kiri was a pale red-haired man. The man had multiple black rods jutting out of his back and was suspended within a walker. The contraption kept the paraplegic in place and allowed him to focus his powerful abilities. Nagato panicked. He had severely underestimated the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. The boy moved faster than even the fake Madara had by leaps and bounds. Konan glanced at him nervously. Zetsu stood behind Pain with gleaming yellow eyes. Nagato glanced at Konan. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki was stronger than expected, and he brought along the real Madara with him. Konan gasped, Nagato, what can we do? Nagato grunted, I have this under control. I will use the Edo Tensei to simply overrun them. They cannot hope to stop that. Conan let out a relieved breath. Zetsu nodded as that might have worked if he was not there. Conan was about to resume guarding the entrance to their hideout when a black rod impaled her. Nagato watched horrified as his last friend in the world died by his own hand. His eyes rolled into their sockets. He did one last thing before he lost consciousness. He severed the Edo Tensei from his control, and ordered them all to kill the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Countless Edo Tensei across all the nations suddenly stopped. Their mindless bodies processed a command before they shuddered and headed in one direction. They had no minds as their free will had been taken away. Only one desire was left in these barren souls. Kill Naruto Uzumaki. Orochimaru grimaced as the world above shook and trembled at the fighting. Konohagakure was in no danger, but the surrounding countries were fighting for their very lives. The collective fighting was causing the very land to tremble as every nation fought. The earthquakes from the land of Earth could be felt even in his lair. Orochimaru looked towards the brightly glowing seal in his laboratory. At over 100 feet wide, it required more energy than all the Bijuu combined. Orochimaru had run into the problem of the chakra requirement when he attempted to activate the newly completed seal with cage-level Edo Tensei. It had failed. The 10 hexagonal crystals glowed as the figures within were sapped of their chakra. Orochimaru learned from his mistakes. All 10 of the crystals contained previous Jinchuriki. They all had been revived with their Bijuu's complete chakra so they could power the seals. The crystals were personally maintained by Gurren so they could smoothly absorb the chakra. Orochimaru gazed in anticipation as the seal powered up. A body laid motionless near the circle. Jiraiya had been tired and exhausted from working non-stop for several weeks. It had been child's play for Orochimaru to literally stab the tired and old man in the back. Jiraiya had not even realized he had been played until the Kusanagi entered his skull. Finally the seal finished powering up. Yes, come now and gift me with the ultimate power, Orochimaru said eagerly. In his quest to find a weakness to the Edo Tensei, he had found a strange chakra that could damage an Edo Tensei body. The chakra was located near the Uzumaki ancestral home and was blackish. It had been held suspended within an Oni mask. Naturally, Orochimaru understood that he could reverse summon whoever the chakra belonged to if he had the proper seals. He would use the chakra drain to take this chakra from whomever it belonged to and kill Pain and his army. The binding seals would hold the person still while he used the technique. A powerful shockwave emanated from the seal and Orochimaru was shocked at the power being emitted. Impossible. The person has not even been summoned yet and the power is distorting reality. The seals ripped open space and the sealing circle transformed into a circular portal. Ungodly amounts of energy radiated from the portal, making Orochimaru sweat. Purple ethereal energy formed the portal. The portal flickered in instability. Orochimaru felt the energy increase even more as the portal dragged the summoned person across space and time. Orochimaru shielded himself as the energy exploded upward and blew his underground ceiling off. Orochimaru was blasted upwards and he was forced to regurgitate himself. Fireballs raced outwards and caught the surroundings on fire. When Orochimaru recovered, dust obscured his vision. He laid above ground where he had been thrown by the explosion. He glanced around and grimaced as Konoha was burning. The explosion had blown all the surrounding buildings to cinders and wildfires raged out of control. Shinobi ran around desperately trying to put out the fires. Orochimaru felt himself freeze. Malevolent energy swept over the entire world and turned the surroundings a shade darker. Orochimaru shakily turned his head towards the giant crater in the ground even as his soul trembled. The civilians and weaker shinobi around him fell over dead at the presence. The dust slowly withdrew and Orochimaru screamed. The last thing he saw was a red Rinnegan eye with 9 tomo. Naruto blasted a hole in the fake tree and walked inside the hideout. Madara followed behind. Naruto looked around and spotted a dead blue-haired woman. She was impaled by a black rod and a betrayed expression was etched on her face. Next he spotted the last person. "It's good to see you, Madara." Black Zetsu spoke. Naruto blanched seeing Zetsu glued to Pain's body. Zetsu was fused to one side of Pain's body and seemed to be controlling him. "And you are?" Naruto asked. Madara stepped forward. "This is my subordinate Zetsu." He was the one who provided you that note and also will be the one to revive me. Naruto snapped over to Madara. Revive you? Madara nodded. Yes, you see, I planned a great many things before my death, and one of them was my own revival. Nagato here received my original eyes but misused them, you see. Zetsu here will force him to use a jutsu that will restore me to life. Naruto nodded. I see. So Zetsu here was a spy within the Akatsuki and decided to make the best use of a situation and trick me to revive you. You have been working against the Akatsuki all along, haven't you? Madara was relieved that Naruto came to his own conclusions and simply nodded. It was really convenient that Obito was dead and could not incriminate him. Now came the hard part. Well, shall we begin? Zetsu asked. Madara nodded and Zetsu forced Nagato's body to perform the Rinne rebirth. Madara's fur glowed white and the light briefly blinded Naruto. When the light died down, ash fell from Madara's revived form. Zetsu detached himself from Nagato's body, the latter now dead. Madara opened his eyes revealing empty sockets. Madara walked over to Nagato's motionless body and ripped his eyes out. Naruto stood there watching as Madara popped the eyes into his sockets and opened them after a few seconds. Naruto was honestly shocked at Madara's regenerative power as he fully assimilated the eyes in mere seconds. Madara looked relieved. Now that I have my eyes back, we can move on to world peace. Madara went through hand seals, summoning Gedo Mazo. The hideout shook and broke apart as a massive demonic statue rose from the ground. Naruto whistled seeing its full height. Madara glanced over at Naruto feeling regretful for what had to happen. Naruto looked over at Madara confused on why the normally aloof Uchiha looked suddenly sullen. Everyone's eyes widened. Naruto felt it even more clearly than the others. Naruto looked towards the sky in shock as it turned a dark hue. Like a storm, the sky gradually turned black. A feeling of absolute horror swept over him. Madara looked with widened eyes as chakra swept over the world, turning the sky black. That chakra. It can't be. The Kyuubi has not even been revived, yet this chakra is even fouler than I imagined it to be. Naruto could feel the being that was radiating the chakra. What is that? It's so alien, yet so evil. Naruto felt sweat pour down his face as the chakra eclipsed his own by far. Naruto glanced over to see Madara in a similar state. Whoever was radiating this chakra, they were not friendly. Madara wore a look of concern. A stark contrast to his usual expression. Madara looked over at Naruto conflicted. Naruto, I believe we have a situation on our hands. I told you I would explain my plans after we defeated Akatsuki. But I need you to take a leap of faith for me. Naruto looked back at Madara. You have not let me down so far, sensei. What's the plan? Madara laughed. You truly remind me of someone I once knew. We don't have time to go with my original plan, so I need you to help me complete an alternative plan I contemplated. Madara bit his lip as he said this. What is this plan exactly? Naruto asked, not liking how hesitant Madara seemed about this. Zetsu looked confused by the turn of events. Madara sighed. This was a plan I created when you told me about that chakra drain technique of yours. Originally I would have had you drain this statue so you could become the Kyuubi and we could enforce peace on the world. So, what's changed? Naruto asked. Madara answered, the problem we have is that surge of chakra. Whoever or whatever it is, it will be powerful enough to pose a threat to us. There is not enough time for you to absorb the Kyuubi and reasonably expect to succeed before this mysterious person attacks. Naruto realized Madara was right. It would take an inordinate amount of time to absorb the Kyuubi and they did not have the time. He could sense the Edo Tensei and this new figure approaching them. Luckily it seemed this person was fighting the Edo Tensei for first dibs. Still, they did not have much time. The new figure was moving at speeds that dwarfed anything he had felt, and it was headed directly for him. So, what can we do? Naruto asked, frustrated. Madara grimaced. He felt the new chakra closing in. It was so potent it almost frightened him. There is one thing we can do. Between the two of us we can each absorb half of the chakra that resides in the statue. We must also share our chakra and mix it. This should allow us to reach a higher level. Naruto realized Madara must be truly desperate. Did Madara know something he did not? I've never seen him so nervous. What does he see that I do not? Naruto thought. Suddenly the ground trembled. Naruto glanced over, seeing the massive Edo Tensei army that was headed in their direction. They were all fighting something, and losing. It was very far away, but he could see the gigantic explosions that dotted the horizon. An explosion bloomed far away and Naruto sweated as it was big enough to wipe out a country easily. Zetsu, who had been silent for a while, watched shocked as events played out completely different than he had been expecting. Madara tsked, we do not have time. Let us begin. It is do or die, Naruto. Madara extended his hand to Naruto. Hesitation stayed Naruto's hand. An otherworldly explosion filled the sky. Naruto saw rather than felt as the entirety of Fire Country exploded into the sky. The world was bathed in crimson light as liquid fire filled the sky. You don't need to tell me twice. Naruto jumped to Madara on top of the Gedo Mazo. Naruto took Madara's extended hand and the two's chakra connected. Madara looked at Naruto with amusement. I'm glad you saw reason. Now let's hurry. Madara used his Rinnegan to rapidly suck the contained Bijuu's chakra from the Gedo Mazo. Naruto slowly reached down and planted his hand on the Gedo Mazo's head. He leached its chakra and it filled him. Naruto and Madara slowly changed as they absorbed the tailed beast's chakra. Their chakra mixed, forming an even more potent combination. Several moments passed before the two stopped. Absolute power filled Naruto. The Gedo Mazo crumbled into ash as the two finished sucking in its power. Even the chakra holding its form together was gone. Naruto noticed Madara looked pained as the statue crumbled into dust. Wow, I feel different, Naruto commented. Indeed, the both of them looked different. Madara's attire had changed quite a bit. Madara's clothes had transformed and he now wore a white robe with black tomo lining all the rims. Black chakra coated his limbs, staining them black. His once white hair was bleached white and he wore a headpiece with horns that rose into the air. Naruto had changed equally as much. His fur was now snow white and his eyes a dark amber. Naruto felt at total peace with his surroundings. He could sense every living thing for miles. His chakra was now a dark gold and his chakra was easily 8 times more powerful. With the chakra rapidly closing in, Madara glanced over at Naruto. Remember, we work together. We can't afford to be separated, Naruto nodded. Naruto turned his head to the north. A figure landed, causing an explosion of dirt and debris. Madara tensed, sensing the figure. Slowly and dramatically the dust rose from the figure. The first thing Naruto noticed was a long white open yukata. The rims of the yukata drifted in the breeze. The dust rose higher, revealing long white hair and a feminine form. The woman wore wrappings beneath the yukata and had a sea cup. Naruto felt a burst of power coming from the woman. With a flex of power, the dust blew away, revealing her to the world. The woman's face was finally revealed. The woman had a regal stature and possessed an otherworldly beauty. She had lavender pupils with purple sclera. The woman bore red bead-like marking above her eyebrows and a shining red Rinnegan eye with 9 tomo in the center of her forehead. The last perplexing feature to Naruto was the twin horns that rose from the sides of her head. The woman smirked viciously at the two shocked shinobi. I can sense the Kyuubi's chakra from you two maggots. Are you disciples of my traitorous sons? Naruto looked over at Madara, confused by who this woman was. Madara, who is this? Madara wore a look of shock. He knew this woman from the Uchiha stone tablet. This was Kaguya Otsutsuki, the mother of the Sage of 6 Paths, and a monster beyond imagining. Madara replied to Naruto's question while keeping a stern eye on Kaguya. This is Kaguya Otsutsuki. She is the most powerful being to ever be recorded living. It took the Sage of 6 Paths and his brother along with the Kyuubi to kill her. I do not know how she is here. Kaguya scowled. Those children could never hope to defeat me. I have never lost to them. Now you will give me the Kyuubi's chakra or die. Naruto was utterly lost at the sudden turn of events. Wait, what? Naruto, prepare yourself. We cannot let her get our chakra. Madara commanded. Naruto nodded and leapt to his side. Naruto transformed to his full height and Madara leapt onto him. Kaguya took offense to that. Naruto gritted his massive teeth as Kaguya let loose her power. A crater over half a mile wide formed as she flexed her godly power. An explosive release of pure chakra lit the sky. The area around Kaguya melted away. The chakra Naruto had taken from the Bijuu and Madara let him fight it off, however. Madara let loose his perfect Susanoo and covered Naruto. Kaguya was surprised when the worms before her were revealed unharmed. She had never fought anyone besides her errant sons who could hope to even stave off her aura. Kaguya floated above the crater using her control over gravity to fly. The Susanoo-clad Naruto grinned at Kaguya. Naruto felt thrilled. He was at the prime of his life and fighting with the greatest shinobi that had ever lived. This fight was better than anything he could hope for. Let's get wild. Naruto shouted. Naruto shushined too close the distance between the two. A gigantic Rasengan formed in his hand and he smashed it into Kaguya's position. Kaguya held one hand up and caught Naruto's massive Rasengan. Naruto's eyes bulged as the goddess lazily held him off. Kaguya pushed him back and he flew through the air at his full size. The goddess appeared above his flying form in a flash. Is this all you have to show me? Kaguya whispered. Madara focused on her. Amaterasu, black flames attached themselves to Kaguya. Madara was not surprised when the rabbit goddess dispersed the flames with ease and rocketed towards them. Kaguya reared a fist back and punched Naruto in his stomach. OMFFF. Naruto hacked as even the perfect Susanoo did not provide total protection against Kaguya's super punch. Naruto rocketed towards the ground at terminal velocity. He impacted the ground and created a huge crater. Kaguya flew overhead looking down mockingly. Naruto lifted himself from the crater. He sustained no injuries except his pride. He looked upwards on his head where Madara rested. Game plan. Madara grunted in annoyance. She's too physically strong to take in close combat. We need to gain some distance. I'll take over when I think we will have an opportunity. Naruto nodded. Kaguya floated overhead. She held an orb of energy in her hand. Grinning, she let it loose on the vermin below her. Madara spotted the incoming chakra attack. Shinra Tensei. A wave of gravity attempted to repel the attack but failed. The attack packed so much power it blazed straight through the Shinra Tensei. Madara's eyes narrowed. Naruto, it's time for a combination defense. Naruto nodded. The both of them mixed their chakra and Naruto held up Susanoo's sword like a baseball bat. Naruto waited until the attack was in range. Uchiha Reflection. Naruto batted the attack. Kaguya was surprised when her own attack was thrown right back at her. Nice trick, children. Kaguya braced herself and prepared to catch her own attack. The attack hit and she was pushed backwards. The attack ignited the air around her and wind blew harshly against her silver hair. She gritted her teeth and punched the attack away. The attack flew off in a random direction. When the attack landed, it detonated in an explosion that engulfed over 50 square miles. Madara, seeing that they finally had an edge, smirked. Naruto, I think it's time to go all out. Naruto flashed his partner a shining grin. I could not say it better myself. Let's go. Naruto burst forward towards Kaguya, preparing a Bijuu. Madara himself was preparing his limbo. 6 limbo clones came into existence around Kaguya. The rabbit goddess eyed the clones lazily and yawned. The clones leapt into action, punching and kicking the goddess. Kaguya leaned under a kick and smashed one limbo clone with a kick. When the kick connected, the clone fizzled out of existence, shocking Madara. Kaguya moved and rapidly destroyed all 6 clones. Naruto's Bijuu grew to the size of his full form and soon transformed into the tail beast ball Rasen Shuriken. Blades spun rapidly around the spiraling ball of energy. Kaguya watched this with caution. Naruto placed Susanoo's blade into the Rasen Shuriken and broke the blade off in it. Taste this, Naruto shouted. The Bijuu Rasen Shuriken raced forward, erasing the ground beneath it as it raced towards Kaguya. Kaguya grinned, seeing such a powerful attack. You might not be children after all. You impress me. While the attack speared toward Kaguya, Madara was busily forming wings out of the back of Susanoo. Naruto was shocked when wings formed out of his back and Madara lifted them towards the sky. What are you planning, Madara? Naruto asked himself. Kaguya's third eye opened wide and it focused on the incoming Bijuu Rasen Shuriken. Otherworldly energy filled the eye. Disappear into the void. Amatsu Makabushi. A rift in space opened. The incoming attack was sucked inside and completely negated. The rift closed and Kaguya grinned. Is that all you have? Up above in the upper atmosphere, Naruto was freaking out. Why are we in space? What's going on? Madara stomped on Naruto's head to get his attention. We're taking the high ground, Naruto. That level of attack won't stop her. We're going to bombard her from space until we exhaust her. Naruto looked around at the stars and moon overhead. Sounds good to me. Madara reached upward and a black orb gathered into existence. Naruto looked in amazement as the orb grew until it was bigger than Madara's palm. The orb suddenly exploded into dozens of smaller ones. Madara clasped his hands together, planetary catastrophic devastation. Down below Kagaya smirked, seeing such a powerful technique. That's it. Don't disappoint me now. Give me a good fight before I rip the Kyuubi from you both. The orbs began pulling on the earth below up, rending entire continents. Islands, mountains, cities, and everything in between was sucked into the attack. Naruto watched in total shock as the various countries of the world were ripped up into giant dirt balls. He could sense millions, possibly billions dying as Madara tore the world asunder. Shit, if this doesn't end soon there won't be a planet to return to. Sweat dripped down Madara's brow. He did not have the complete Kyuubi and this was taxing on him. He could perform a few more feats before he needed a reprieve. All of the shinobi villages and countries lied below, destroyed as the Chibaku Tensei tore entire continents up. The continent-sized meteors hovered above the earth. Madara huffed slightly and sent Kagaya a look that promised pain. Madara pointed and the giant rocks sped towards Kagaya. Down on the ground, Kagaya looked at the falling meteorites with excitement. I'm impressed, as I doubt even my sons could pull off such a display without heavily taxing themselves. Kagaya channeled chakra to her index finger. The ground around her cratered and purple energy formed on her fingertip. Taste devastation. The energy shot towards the falling meteorites at undetectable speeds. The beam hit one of the meteorites and an explosion that blinded the night sky bloomed into existence. Up above, Naruto flew using the Susanoo's wings. The explosion was so massive that it destroyed over half the falling meteorites and nicked the Susanoo's wing. Madara, you got a plan for this? He yelled. Madara grinned at him. I always have a plan, he yelled back. Kagaya shot another beam and destroyed more meteorites. How long would they stave off their inevitable death? Suddenly Limbo clones surrounded Kagaya. She sighed at her enemy's futile strategy. The Madara clones were far more defensive this time, using the Rinnegan's abilities to kite and corral Kagaya each time she attempted to kill one of them. Kagaya grew frustrated and energy exploded out of her. The clones were erased from existence. Kagaya looked around her. Is that all you've got? Arrogance dripped from her voice. Kagaya was so distracted by the Limbo clones that she had allowed the dust from the exploding meteorites to obscure the sky. 20 Bijudama Rasen shurikens burst from the sky and homed in on her. Kagaya felt the approaching attack and gasped. She turned at the last minute and held her arms crossed in a futile defense. The 20 attacks drilled into her. Kagaya screamed as the attacks exploded. From space, Naruto and Madara could see everything. An explosion so large it could be seen from space came into view. Naruto grimaced as the explosion was so large it obliterated over half the entire elemental nations. Yay, we got her, Naruto yelled. Madara was about to agree when he stiffened. It's not over yet. Behind the duo a rip in space opened. Kagaya came out of it. Kagaya resembled a corpse. Her lower torso was completely gone and both her arms were burnt beyond recognition. Her skin, hair, face, and S were melted and plastered to her skin. Kagaya was in her death throes. Damn you. She muttered weakly. Naruto stared horrified, wondering how she was even alive. Madara was wondering the same, as he could not even figure it out. Kagaya glared at them. You will die for this. Quote. Kagaya prepared her strongest attack. She could feel her life slipping away and used what life force she had left to perform this one last attack. Her third eye opened wide and focused on the duo. I will take away your power you covet and kill you both. Kagaya declared in a weakening voice. Madara prepared a Shinra Tensei while Naruto prepared a Bijudama. The two were unprepared when they felt a rift open in their very bodies. Kagaya grinned vicariously. Madara screamed as a rift formed in his chakra. He felt as Kagaya somehow formed a tear in space. She placed it inside his very chakra and it was sucking his power in and would soon rip him to shreds. Naruto himself was undergoing the same thing and growled, feeling his power shrink away. Damn it all. Kagaya grinned as the last of her life left her. Haha, I always win in the end. Her eyes dulled and her form fell towards the earth. The rocky and broken continents shone below. Madara growled, seeing his chakra disappearing. The drain on his chakra was feeding the portal. Madara thought of every possible solution to fix this when it hit him. He could not save himself. Naruto yelled in pain as he was consumed even faster. Because his body was made completely of chakra, the distortion in his chakra was simply feasting away. Naruto. Naruto heard a voice reach out to him. He looked over and saw Madara. Madara was visibly aging away and seemed to be in 70s. Madara flashed him a smile. Naruto, I'm sorry. You made me realize who I needed to be, in the end. I believed the ends always justify the means, until now. Naruto scowled in confusion. What are you talking about? We can beat this. Madara grinned somberly. I can only save you, I'm afraid. I once heard that a person is not defined by how they lived but how they die. Naruto grew panicked. Don't talk like that, sensei. Madara simply smiled and reached for Naruto's head. Susanoo had long faded and only rustic red fur greeted him. Naruto had shrunk greatly and now only sported one tail. Madara looked at him with a serene expression. It's time for me to repay you for reviving me. Before Naruto could protest, Madara channeled what remaining chakra he had to his eyes. The distortion inside Naruto's body changed. Instead of absorbing Naruto's chakra, it fused with him, bonding to him. The new merged chakra flashed a dark purple. Madara's Rinnegan faded away, returning to the Sharingan. Madara glanced towards the world below before coming back to him. This world is done for. Go and make a new life for yourself. Goodbye, my friend. Madara gasped and the energy inside him consumed him. Madara had one last thought. I finally saved one person that was important in my life. Madara's eyes closed peacefully. Naruto screamed, no. The energy completely consumed Madara and the body fizzled from existence. The portal inside Madara grew from the last of the chakra. It burst into existence. Instead of being inside Madara's body, it now drew Naruto in. Naruto realized he was being drawn into it. Oh shit! Naruto yelled while being dragged into the portal. As Naruto was drawn through it, purple and red hues covered his vision. The adventure of his life had begun. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.